of the Godfather. The year of the Godfather. 2020 was a bitch. What? All I wanna do is this. What? 2021. Come on. A nigga thought he was done. Hating ass bitches everywhere. Dick riding in the air. Good guys better be aware. Hating niggas better be aware. Hating ass bitches everywhere. Dick riding in the air. Good guys better be aware. Hating niggas better be aware. Hating ass bitches everywhere. Dick riding in the air. Good guys better be aware. Hating niggas better be aware. Hating ass bitches everywhere. Dick riding in the air. Good guys better be aware. Hating niggas better be aware. Last year was a bitch. Good guys took over this shit. All I wanna do is this. New niggas from everywhere. New niggas didn't sit and stare. D-Durrell was always aware, but my roast was too hard to bear. There ain't no fucking stopping me. Detroit nigga pocket watching me. I rose the channel from the dead. Turn the bank account from black to red. New niggas tried to make a name. Tried to challenge me and put me to shame. 1 month after another. Can't stop the Godfather. Hating ass bitches everywhere. Dick riding in the air. Good guys better be aware. Hating niggas better be aware. Hating ass bitches everywhere. Dick riding in the air. Good guys better be aware. Hating niggas better be aware. Hating ass bitches everywhere. Dick riding in the air. Good guys better be aware. Hating niggas better be aware. Hating ass bitches everywhere. Dick riding in the air. Good guys better be aware. Hating niggas better be aware. Find a nigga fucking house soon. Word about a damn auto-tune. Let a nigga beef in peace. When you gonna release a beat? Motherfucker in the manosphere. Lame ass can't keep it real. Called Channel 2 cause he couldn't take it. Next week channel terminated. Everybody gotta deal with trolls. Communist bitches with fucked up froze. Nigga lose their damn job over dough. Grown man and white fucking slow. Andrew Stewart on the last leg. No far found from the state and feds. If I ain't talking about you, that mean you ain't working, that's the fucking truth. Hating ass bitches everywhere. Dick riding in the air. Good guys better be aware. Hating niggas better be aware. Hating ass bitches everywhere. Dick riding in the air. Good guys better be aware. Hating niggas better be aware. Hating ass bitches everywhere. Dick riding in the air. Good guys better be aware. Hating niggas better be aware. Hating ass bitches everywhere. Dick riding in the air. Good guys better be aware. Hating niggas better be aware. "2020 was a bitch. All I wanna do is this. Motherfucking Godfather. 2021. Nigga thought he was done. 2020 was a bitch. All I wanna do is this. Motherfucking Godfather. 2021. What? A nigga thought he was done.
Welcome, everybody. This is D-Durrell with the Rebirth, also broadcasting from D-Durrell Life Solutions, also broadcasting from the pro-black Umar Johnson sector with the Sectors TV, and also representing my brother BMT and the Black Balance Network. Today is going to be a informational or educational setting as it relates to the content, and the focus is on issues related to self-diagnoses within the Black YouTube sector or in social media, period. Now, what I want to do, this is not a situation of me saying disparaging comments about anybody or assessing someone in a negative manner. I am representing myself and presenting myself as the mental health professional that I am, who has over 16 years of experience as being a licensed clinician, as a licensed professional counselor in the state of Texas, who has been in business with his own clinic and multiple clinics and facilities in multiple locations in the state of Texas, albeit the Houston area, the Galveston County area, and the Dallas County area. You are speaking to someone who has, as a whole, a master's degree in mental health counseling and a bachelor's degree in psychology, along with over 23 years of experience working in mental health on the paraprofessional level, which is unlicensed case management, and also working on the clinical side. So I am prefacing my experience as a mental health professional who has worked in all levels, from a paraprofessional to a licensed clinician, someone who has supervised and have trained at least 50 or more clinicians in the state of Texas to become licensed therapists, and who also works at boss status as I am right now, as the owner, 100% ownership and CEO of my company, Transitional Life Counseling and Consultation, which, by the way, in 2021 was voted the best mental health facility in Texas City, Texas, which is a suburb outside of Houston. Because one of the biggest problems why I don't do content like this is because I am sick and tired of people with no credentials, no mental health education, that want to argue with those who have it. You don't see people arguing with lawyers about law. I take that back. Sometimes they do. That's irritating also. You don't see people arguing with the diagnoses of doctors. You don't see someone telling the engineer how to engineer. But for some reason, when it comes to mental health, everybody acts and pretends as if they know more about mental health than the professionals. Now, what I am going to showcase is an interaction against my girl, Uppity Unicorn. I love you to death, sis. You've been on my platform for over 2 years, on and off. We don't chop it up like we used to. I still got love for you. But if you're doing and saying things that are not consistent with the profession, it's not consistent with the profession. That's just the facts. You can believe what you want. For those who like to read and educate themselves on mental health, I encourage you to do so. But I'm going to preface this, and I will repeat this. Self-diagnosis is not an official diagnosis. Let me repeat. Self-diagnoses of a mental health disorder of yourself is not an official diagnosis. I can diagnose myself, and I'm licensed. You want to know why self-diagnosis is not an official diagnosis and why it's not looked upon as being a legitimate diagnosis? It's because you're doing it. You can't effectively diagnose yourself because in assessing yourself, you're carrying on a high level of subjectivity of yourself. Let me repeat again. You cannot diagnose yourself because in the process of self-diagnosis, if you're assessing yourself, you're going to automatically carry a level of subjectivity. In that subjectivity, you look at yourself a certain way, whether it's right or not, that is going to be different from someone that does not have any meat in the game. When I see a client coming here to my clinics to get diagnosis and to get treatment, I see that person as a client, as a person. I am trained to be objective. I don't have any preconceived notions of who this person is. You can't do that when you're assessing yourself. Because in yourself, you will refuse to look at yourself a certain way. You will tend to not want to look at the worst of who you are. You will want to look at things from your own experience. I am saying this not only to Uppity Unicorn, but I'm saying that to the Black YouTube space. Look at the self-diagnosis of those claiming narcissistic personality disorder. They're self-diagnosing. And those who claim just because somebody has one or more traits of narcissistic personality disorder does not mean that you are a classic narcissist. You must understand that in diagnosing someone, that is a skill that takes years to perfect, and you can only get better. I'm a better diagnoser of mental illness now than I was 10 years ago, than I was 15 years ago. You know how I became better? Because I began to practice and get more experience. So how in the hell people think that they can read the DSM criteria? Are you reading something and you don't know how reputable the information is online and assume because these things fit you that you're automatically that disorder? No, there's more nuance to that. Also, with the fact that the utilization of appraisal and assessments and testing that goes about diagnosing someone effectively with autism. There are assessment appraisals such as the ADOS and the ADIR. The ADOS, which we not like American Descendants of Slavery, but ADOS stands for Autism Diagnostic Observation Schedule, which is the initial assessment implementation. Now that's just one, but that's the one I know that's widely used. The next thing, in the second phase, you also can use the Autism Diagnostic Interview, the ADIR. Now I'm going to say this, guys. I have never utilized any of the two assessments because I've never had to diagnose a person with autism. Okay? Usually when I treat someone with autism, they have already been diagnosed by a clinical psychologist and I receive the referral. I would refer for anyone that is thinking or have any inkling of a thought that they may have a communication disorder, because that's what autism is. It's a communication or a neurodevelopmental disorder. By the way, to seek the professional opinion of a licensed psychologist. Okay? A licensed psychologist. Now, let me also, I see some people in the chat. Shout out to Recognize Game. Shout out to Mella, too. Shout out to my boy BMT. Ray Triggs, what's up? What's going on, Miss Samba Queen? What's up, Don't at me, I don't give a F. What's going on, Miss Teresa? She says, could you mention the different channels where people are tuned in? Again, I am broadcasting from D. Durrell, the Rebirth. I'm also broadcasting from my main channel, D. Durrell, my professional channel, D. Durrell Life Solutions. Also from the Black Balance Network, which is basically a network that consists of me and BMT at this moment and others that interact with us. And also the Sectors TV, which is part of the the pro-black Umar Johnson sector. Those are the sectors that I am involved in. Now, what I would like to do, and I appreciate each and every one of you that are coming from different sectors that are here today, and I will be opening up the panel for those that have information or want to know more about autism or the autism spectrum. My first experience, most of the kids that I have treated with autism could not speak. They were nonverbal, and if they were verbal, they lacked a vocabulary. It's because symptomatically, autism has developmental and psycho and intellectual. You can have intellectual issues. Some people with autism are very intelligent towards specific things. They may have a special talent that they're fixated on and that they do fixated in repetitive behaviors. Kids with autism don't respond well to change. They don't adjust well. That's why they don't do well in social situations. I would be very, very suspicious of anyone who claimed that they have been diagnosed with autism as an adult. Because if a person that has autism typically is diagnosed between the ages of 3 to maybe around 8 to 10 years old, on average. You don't find teenagers diagnosed with autism because if they're in school, it's going to be caught somewhere on average between 3 to 8 to 9 years old, maybe 10 at the most. And let's understand they're going through a series of battery of tests, some that I just talked about, to identify whether or not they have this disorder or not. And see, this is another issue, a problem that occurs when you self diagnose. When you self diagnose, you are not in the understanding that there are other mental health illnesses within that family of syndrome that are similar to autism. At one time, Asperger's was its own self identified disorder. When they created the DSM 5, they put Asperger's into the spectrum of autism. You will not find the term Asperger's disorder in the DSM anymore. Asperger's is now part of the autism spectrum. Asperger's itself was more characterized by repetitive and inadequate, or let's say atypical body movements and so forth as a person is in uncomfortable social situations. Very similar to autism, but it had differences. When they revamped the DSM 5 years ago, they decided to take Asperger's out and they put it within the spectrum, the autism spectrum. The autism spectrum consists in itself of mild autism, moderate, profound, and severe, just like mental retardation or intellectual disorders. When you look at kids who are severe or profound, they're probably not they're probably not verbal. They probably they don't understand verbal cues. They don't respond well, and they're easily to unfamiliar stimuli, and they need assistance with functioning throughout all aspects of their life. Now, what I want to do before I go any further, because see, this is what frustrates me. This is why I don't get on panels anymore and talk about mental health. The other day, Woman Spirit asked me, "You're not utilized enough in this." It's the reason why I'm not utilized, the reason why I'm not asked is because at one time when I tried to correct and talk to people about certain things about mental health and relationships and things that were in the scope of my profession, people wanted to argue with me and yell with me and say I was a fake therapist and this and that. So I'm not going to force my knowledge on anybody. For those that want to ask me a question or consult with me, you can email me or you contact, because there are people who do it all the time. Therefore, it happens. And those that don't. But I'm not going to sit here and argue with people who are not professionals in this field and who don't know what the hell they're talking about. But because they read a Google article, they think they know more than I do. And I'm going to give you an example of why I don't get on panels discussing mental health anymore. Because every time I do, there's always a situation like this, and that would basically encourages me not to do so. Now I want you to see this.
She said she's trying to make it seem like, oh, you know, the girl don't know she's autistic, and now she says she's part of the community. Now she's saying, if you are well versed in the autism community, you would know that there are many people who are self-diagnosed who are welcomed. What I am going through is testing.
Let me stop there 1 second. That is not true. Well, let me say this. No, let me rephrase that. That is not consistent. If you are talking about being in the autism community, or you think that your child or somebody is autistic, they will welcome you and support you. However, they will not long term accept the fact that you self-diagnosed. In that interaction with them and your development with them and bonding and so forth, because you have a commonality, they will refer and suggest that you get an official diagnosis with a mental health professional. They are not just going to accept your diagnosis of yourself. No, they're not. And if any organization does so, that is not a reputable organization. And then I also will question whether or not these organizations have mental health professionals that are supervising it. Because anybody can create an organization to support those that have an illness. There are bipolar support groups, there's major depression support groups, there's the support groups for people who have schizophrenia and so forth. And some of these, even NAMI itself, I've actually met and know the lady, Carolyn Kabowski, who actually I've met her several times. She is not a mental health professional. She's an advocate. And her daughter took over her organization, NAMI, which is one of the biggest national mental health organizations. She was not a mental health professional. She was an advocate. But you know what Carolyn Kabowski did? She sought mental health providers to give and educate information. Yes, she accepted you in, but they're not going to take in your self-diagnosis as if it's gospel. Let me continue.
And I can't rush that.
Some self-diagnosis, it is true.
It's normal.
It is true. I Googled it, that they do accept self-diagnosis. You can, check.
So there was Olivia, and then there was the chat. So there's a few things that I wrote after, that I wrote behind here.
Blah, blah, motherfucking blah. And bitch, you talk too goddamn slow and too long. They do not. They do not. I'm sorry. You can say Olivia. Google is not a doctor, okay, baby?
Miss Olivia.
What the fuck?
Google it, Olivia.
No, you cannot. I'm not Googling nothing. I'm telling you what I know. That's ridiculous.
Do you think you and Uppity can mend this today?
I mean, I don't have nothing against the girl, but she's not gonna be freaking lying on me. I don't care if she meant it or not. I don't give a damn. I will stay my old relic ass and my mean and surly ass. I will never change, because bitch, like I said, don't try to play me like that. Do you understand me? Now you can let her up, but I don't care.
Okay.
What the fuck she got going on? And I'm sorry, baby. But I don't like people to try to play me like that. You manipulating the wrong when you're trying to manipulate the wrong one. You can fool a whole lot of the people a whole lot of the time. But Uppity, guess what, girl? You can't never fool me. Okay? You can't fool an old relic, honey.
Hey, Uppity. How you feel about everything Miss Olivia said?
Well, here's the deal. There was Olivia and then there was chat.
Girl.
All right. So there was Olivia and then there was the chat. So there's a few things that I wrote after that I wrote behind here.
Blah, blah, motherfucking blah. And bitch, you talk too goddamn slow and too long. You don't even take a breath.
Atari.
Okay. I'm gonna let you talk. Go ahead, Uppity.
So whoever is talking about how they don't dislike me, you already wrote it in the chat, and I said that you're allowed not to like me. You don't have to like every Black woman you meet. So first of all, Olivia just lied again. She just said, and I wrote it in the back chat, she said, this is the only thing you talk about. When are you going to get a new storyline? And so I said that I did not speak on this situation for an entire year, and that's why so many people had no idea that this happened. So many people who are new to the sector did not know because I left it alone. You can go look at my channel now and see that Olivia just lied on me again. I have a ton of content, Atari, on leveling up, on dark feminine, on light feminine, on autism, on beauty, on so many different things, on conflict resolution. I literally I hadn't spoken on this for a year because Mr. Uppity forbade me.
Okay, he
did not allow me. And on top of that, she said she's trying to make it seem like, oh, you know, the girl don't know if she's autistic, and now she says she's part of the community. Now she's saying, if you were well versed in the autism community, you would know that there are many people who are self-diagnosed who are welcomed. What I am going through is testing, and I can't rush that.
Yeah,
I've seen the diagnostic criteria, and I identify with the diagnostic criteria, but it's not for me to hand myself that thing and just, okay, well, it's official. I have to wait on it. However, within the autism community, that is allowed. And there are many people who don't wait on a doctor to diagnose them to realize that they have this as a developmental reality.
Let me stop there. That's not how it works. That is not how it works. It doesn't. You do not have to wait for an autistic diagnosis. I just talked about the process in regards to an initial evaluation with the implementation of the ADOS assessment. I also talked about the ADIR, which is utilized as a diagnostic interview. You have an initial assessment and a reevaluation and an assessment of specific skills. You have to be reevaluated every 3 years. Okay? When we're talking about the assessment of specific skills, we're talking about targeted behaviors and skills, not on a fixed schedule, and it's individually based on your needs. Okay? And as I've stated, I've never implemented these instruments before. I've usually gets the referral after a psychologist did the evaluation. You don't have to wait months and months for an autistic evaluation. A doctor can, evaluate and diagnose you within 3 to 5 days or a week at the most. It doesn't, and it may not even take that long, depending on how quickly they complete and assess and summarize the findings. I don't give a damn about the autistic community accepting your diagnosis. The professional mental health community doesn't, because we're the ones who give the diagnosis. Anybody can create an autistic nonprofit organization and say, "Oh, we accept you." That means nothing. The people who are in these organizations that are writing that BS and putting it on YouTube are people who are not mental health professionals. They're just someone who has a autistic or a developmental support group for those who have those types of illnesses. There's a difference. Olivia was 100% correct, but what pissed me off, or what, let me say pissed me off, what disappointed me was the fact that that was a lady who was a licensed clinician, clinical social worker for over 20 plus years, and you pretty much dismissed her professional opinion because you didn't like whatever she said and so on. And then another person said, "Oh, I Googled it up. It said that they do accept." No, they don't. It is not an official diagnosis. Let me repeat. You self-diagnosing yourself is not an official diagnosis because you're not a mental health expert. You're not a licensed clinician. Hell, there are things that I need a psychologist for to sign off on that I can't even be reputable in doing myself because there are limitations in the scope of what I can do, particularly when it comes to assessments or appraisals and the facilitation of that. So how is it a random person thinks that they can read some stuff and self-assess and think they are correctly doing so? People with autism are not sociable people. They're not going to get on YouTube and argue with you. They don't have the verbal abilities of Uppity Unicorn. They don't engage in back and forth conversation with emotion and the understanding of verbal cues and emotionality. A person with autism, if they're in an adverse situation, is probably going to withdraw from you and not speak and engage in a childlike behavior or position in the event of that adverse situation. She mentioned nothing about the treatment. If you claim that you have autism, why are you not in applied behavioral analysis, which is ABA therapy? See, this is why I don't discuss mental health and I don't engage with people who have argued with me in the past. I have had many instances where people read something and didn't understand the full context of what they were reading. And when I stated what it really means, you get mad and upset and think that I'm trying to make you look dumb, stupid, or inadequate. No, I'm merely educating you on what that is. Let me continue.
So
you have shame, and that's all I see every time you explain yourself. You shouldn't have shame about what you did in the past. What you did is what you did. Don't let anyone on here shame you. You did it, just laugh it off and let it go. Like, you don't need these people. You don't. Like, just go on and stand on your own 2 feet and move on. And just only support the people who support you and don't support the ones who don't. And don't keep explaining. It's just too much explaining going on right now.
So I gave up this whole situation for a year, unlike what Miss Olivia was saying about me. And you can look at my channel for proof. I let it go. They didn't let it go. And people
it's not no day.
You let them go.
I don't watch you.
I'm trying.
I don't watch you. I don't know if you let it go or not. Every time,
so then don't speak
I
what
hear the
you
story,
don't
it's
know,
you talking
Olivia.
about it.
Don't speak what you don't know.
Nobody pays attention to you.
I had never let it go.
You can't self-diagnose. You can't self-diagnose yourself as being autistic. That doesn't even make you under. No, you listening for your. No, you can in the autism community. No, you can. No, you cannot. No, you cannot. No, you cannot.
Google it, Olivia.
No, you cannot. I'm not Googling nothing. I'm telling you what I know. That's ridiculous. You sound like crazy. Let me tell you something. You sound like you got some kind of dissociative disorder. You're not autistic, honey. You got
don't
to
know
come
the
to
Now I want to stop here. Now, in the midst of her interacting with Miss Olivia, I don't agree with Miss Olivia saying that she has a dissociative disorder. Okay, identity disorder. What she's basically saying, what dissociative identity disorder really means, is that she has multiple personalities. That's what that means. It used to be coined multiple personality disorder. It was rebranded dissociative identity disorder, meaning that it's a disassociation between multiple personalities that are not aware of each other, or you're not aware of. You're aware of having. You're disassociating between multiple personalities in itself. That is also another very difficult disorder to diagnose. I've never in my career had a person with multiple personality disorder or dissociative identity disorder. However, in the heat of that, I get how Miss Olivia stated that, because she's trying to figure out what the hell Uppity is doing. I don't agree with her standing profession. She's not licensed anymore, so there's no real issue with that in a sense. She knows better. I know she knows better, but we're not supposed to state that. We're not supposed to state somebody possibly has, because it can be conceived as if we're diagnosing. It's actually being deemed as being unethical. Now she's retired. She was in a highly emotional interaction. She made a mistake and said that, but I know she knows better. But it's not a real big deal. But the matter of fact is that you can't go around self-assessing yourself, and Google is not a replacement for mental health professionals. Let me repeat: Google, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok is not a replacement for me. It's not. And now I'm going to give another position on this, because I'm going to show you an article by the American Counseling Association that talks about how they perceive and how the community perceive those who self-diagnose. But let me continue with this.
You've never been to college.
You cannot self-diagnose. That is not recognized in the autism community. What you are doing, you're doing a disservice to the autistic community. That's what you're doing.
Olivia, make up a
that is what's wrong with you.
Well,
that's what's going on. Self-diagnosis, girl, you are weird. You're a whole goofball. Are you okay? Girl, no, you're not okay.
You're not okay,
man. You're insulting people.
You're not okay, man.
You're insulting people.
You're not okay.
And just let me tell you this, and I'm gonna be quiet. But Atari, let me tell her this, and I'm gonna be quiet, okay?
Okay, go ahead. Then I'm gonna put you in the back.
Once and for all, I don't give a damn about what you and that chick, you and Womansphere, or you and Nyla, or you and Taz, or whoever the fuck in the world you got something going on with. This don't have nothing to do with me. You should not have jumped on my channel, but I'm taking accountability to the fact that I clicked you onto the link, honey, because if I knew you was gonna be this much trouble, I would have never, ever, ever click the link and let you come on, because this is some ridiculous stuff. It's weird to me. I don't even understand. The shit is weird. Like, you need to, I just don't know what you need some help. I don't know whatever else to tell you. But don't keep calling me a liar when, and by the way, you can play the damn video. Okay? You can play the video if it's gonna make you feel better, but what you should do is get yourself some therapy. That's what stop self-diagnosing and get yourself some therapy. YouTube is not for everybody. Clearly, it's done drove you crazy or something. Because there's something wrong with you, girl. And I mean that.
Hey,
and I'm not being smart with you right now. It don't make no sense acting like this. Grow up.
Hey, Atari.
Hey,
Like,
who is this speaking?
Don't make up stuff on me. Don't do that. I don't like that. And I'm not shaming you. You shaming what you're doing is you shaming yourself. Okay? Because you sent those pictures and you feel ashamed about them. It was wrong for them to revenge upon you, but you're not taking accountability for sending the pictures in the first place. And then you can't compare you sending the pictures to somebody saying you was raped because of something you had on. That's a ridiculous comparison. It don't even
It's a
make no
good one.
sense. Like you throwing everything out of the freaking basket. All in an effort to rectify your madness.
We hear you, Wave. Let Miss Oracle finish.
Oh, okay.
It don't make no sense. This shit is
Okay.
weird. You gotta be shaming yourself. Comparing apples to apples. Girl, you need to stop. Like I said, you need to get a hold of yourself, honey.
Okay,
The
Miss
hell is wrong
Olivia.
with you? Anyway, go ahead.
Okay. Was there anything else, Wave?
That is it on my part. I think that the community needs to refrain from diagnosing people with psychological disorders.
Mm-hmm.
It's a form of gaslighting.
How you feel about the self-diagnosis?
And as far as the autism self-diagnosis,
Uh-huh.
it is true.
It's normal.
It is true. I Googled it, that they do accept self-diagnosis.
That is a lie. And my thing is, you're sitting there with a woman who has over 20 plus years as a licensed clinical social worker, and you're going to bypass her expertise for what you Googled and didn't understand the context. When you're talking about the autism community, we're talking about people who are not mental health professionals. The autism community makes up people who have a life's mission or goal to help that particular population. That can consist of any and everybody, particularly those who are not licensed in mental health or any type of mental health profession. That can be a group of teachers, that can be parents, that can be family members, policemen, all these people who may have a cousin, family member, spouse that may be at the mild level of autism, who's highly functional. That is not self-diagnosing, is not and will never be accepted by any reputable mental health organization or educational organization, psychological organization, or statistical research related organization or institution. When they looked that up, they looked up probably a small nonprofit or someone that was basically open to those who may have been diagnosed or so on, or who are looking to lead more information. Of course, they're going to be welcoming of people who think they have it, because they're trying to educate. Their main purpose is to educate, and in that interaction, they're going to encourage you to get a legitimate diagnosis, so that other person, whoever she was, validated falsely. Uppity said what she stated, and another person got up there not knowing what she's talking about, not a mental health professional, not trained. You Googled up an article, you Googled some information with not understanding the full context. This woman, Miss Olivia, the Oracle speaks, is a well-polished, retired clinical social worker that worked in mental health. Who in the hell are you to have conflict with what she's saying? She has more experience than I do. And she spoke correctly. And she spoke in line with what is consistent with the mental health field. But you want to get on panels and argue because you believe that you're something just because it listed features that may coincide with things that you may have done in the past or present. That's not how we diagnose. There's more nuances. If you're not talking about administering any type of assessments, so that means that you can effectively assess better than constructed mental health testing? Is that what we're saying? Like nobody argues with a brother like G Dizzle who's in tech. Shout out to G Dizzle in the chat. That's just like me trying to tell G Dizzle how to be a computer engineer or how to work tech, and I ain't never worked a day of tech in my life. What's going on, Miss Murph? Hey, Miss Brandy Davis, how you doing, Queen? What's up, Rizzo Lyricist? Ray Trigg says, accepting self-diagnosis, that makes no sense. It's just like you trying to tell a pulmonary doctor that you have a heart attack, and he says, I mean, you have a heart condition, he says you don't. I mean, guys, I mean, we have to quit. We have to put things into perspective. Listen, Upper Unicorn is my girl. I like her to death. This situation, I don't agree. She's not, this is not me personal. This is me professional. And what I'm saying is that if I had a client that came to me saying that they self-diagnosed themselves, I am going to treat that as such and reevaluate them and tell them what they're doing, why they did it, and this is what it most probably is as a professional. I'm not going to do it in an oppositional manner. I'm going to do it in a manner in which we're working collectively to help you deal with whatever issues that you're doing. But in that, you will understand that you cannot self-assess yourself. Nor should you assess others, particularly if you've never met them face to face or in a clinical situation. Now let me continue.
You can
They do not. No, they do not.
check off.
They don't. Okay.
No, they do not.
I know Miss Olivia worked in the field.
You can check
No,
off.
they do not.
You can check off. You can check off all of the criteria.
You still have to be tested.
In that particular community, you can. You absolutely.
Miss Olivia just told this fool, you have to be tested. And this lady at the upper right is steady arguing about checking off boxes. Assessing oneself and diagnosis is more than just checking boxes. And nobody's diagnosing an adult, a grown-ass adult, because most people don't live to be in their adulthood without being, excuse me, adulthood in their 30s with autism. That will be sought and identified in grade school, probably before middle school. You don't even understand the nuances and the aspects of the criteria, and understanding that the 5 or more, I think it's about 5 features. Yeah, there's 5 features of that consist of the autism spectrum. You have to have those symptoms or those features acting in conjunction with one another at the same time. Not one week you have emotional deficits and the other week you have nonverbal deficits, and then another day you're restricted in your behavior and the symptoms of the developmental period is like this and that, or you have some impairment in the way you're socializing with others, and you have disturbances in as far as your intellectual. Does Upper Unicorn sound like she has intellectual deficits? No, she doesn't. She does not have. Upper Unicorn is an intelligent woman. Does Upper Unicorn seem like she is engaging in repetitive behaviors, nonverbal? Upper Unicorn is very verbal. She does not have restrictive patterns of behavior and activities. She doesn't. At least she's never exhibited that on YouTube. So just because you're reading the symptoms or the features does not necessarily mean that they coincide with your behavior. Because I can read other illnesses such as social communication disorder, and others, unspecified communication disorder, that are quite similar. to autism. But you want to say I Googled it, therefore I know better than you. So the hell with Olivia's 20 plus, 25 plus years of experience as a social worker. The hell with D. Durrell's 22, 23 years of experience. My 16 plus years of professional license experience. My 14 years of operating and having contracts with social service agencies and home health agencies in which I treated childhood autism. And I'm gonna let you understand it. It is some of the most difficult work that I have ever done in the observation and treating and communicating with someone who is particularly those who are nonverbal and have intellectual deficits. My purpose here is to open the window that each and every one of us must understand that there are other integral aspects of those features and how it presents, the manner, the duration, the intensity of how it presents in the environment. And also we have to understand that there are hereditary and other genetic influences. You just merely reading something is not going to make you an expert on the fact of what it is and what it's not. I have to re-educate myself yearly on these things, continuing education and looking at what research and the recent research has found in trends. The DSM changes. Asperger's was once its own illness. Now it's part of the autism spectrum in itself and not listed in the DSM. Changes occur. Now let me continue, then we're going to wrap it up, and then I'm going to go to the other aspect.
Absolutely can self-diagnose.
No, you cannot. I don't know where y'all getting this.
Miss Olivia,
let me tell you something. Please. Before I retired, Wade, I was a licensed clinical social worker. You cannot self-diagnose. Okay?
You can now.
My family is in the autism. My family is in the autistic community because I have a high-functioning niece that is autistic. 2 days a week, she goes to a special school. 3 days a week, she goes to public school.
Yeah. Well, I
can't tell you community.
From okay, so what I will tell you is this: from my research.
Listen to this ignorance. The fact this lady is so dismissive. This woman just told you, man, this is actually giving me a headache. That this woman telling you as a clinical social worker, and then she wants to sit here and act like her research that she does not understand. She does not understand what she read. She just read information without understanding the context and how that information is applied. You don't even understand the formative way in which a diagnosis is given. You're going to just basically push that away, and the fact that I read features by someone that you don't even know who's reputable or not, and I'm gonna go with that. You see, this is a primary example of unintellectualism on YouTube. The manifestation of glorified unintellectualism that is backed up by buffoonery and an irreversible mindset to think what you read is the be-all, end-all without doing your research, even on the people that created the information. You cannot take everything you read on YouTube for gold. But let me continue.
You can self-diagnose.
You can self-diagnose yourself for any. You can self-diagnose yourself
in that community. They allow self-diagnosis.
Let me stop here because this is so mind-blowing to me. She keeps saying in that community. What do you mean? What community? The community is made up of who? The community is made up of people who have experiences either themselves personally or with family members, friends, associates, and so on, and giving them support. The community itself is not an environment of treatment modality. The environment itself is for support for those who've been discriminated, mistreated, or who have not been given certain benefits on the account that they have autism. And in regards to seeking resources to make life easy for those who have autism spectrum disorder. And they're going to say in that community means nothing. If it didn't come from the APA, it didn't come from the American Psychological Association, the American Psychologists Association, the ACA, American Council Association, or any other, or NAMI, or the National Substance Abuse Mental Health Association. Those are reputable mental health psychological organizations, not some random YouTube article you read from God knows who. You didn't do the research even on the people who actually gave that information. But you're going to argue with someone and say, I read this, therefore it means this.
Not.
Yes,
They do not. I'm
Googled.
You can say,
Olivia. Okay, well, you know what, Miss Olivia?
You have dated information.
Google,
You know what, Miss Olivia?
Google is not a doctor, okay, baby?
We're graduates, and we understand
Miss
what
Olivia?
a journal is.
Miss Olivia, how about if we just agree to disagree?
No, we're not going to agree to disagree. You need to agree to consult with a mental health professional on what you think you know and you don't know. There's no disagreement on the truth. You need to concede that the fact that you're wrong and you have no business debating with a former mental health professional who's retired about autism spectrum disorder. That's what you should be doing. But your arrogance and your blinded ignorance prevents you from doing so.
We could just come to agree to disagree. Like I said,
because instead of having bad blood and being
we ain't got no bad blood. And let me tell you something. I don't know none of y'all on YouTube.
Right.
It ain't no bad blood. It ain't no bad blood when it comes to me. I'm not invested like that.
You just called me a bag of bitches. That is bad blood. If
I'm
that's
not, I want to. I don't give a fuck. Like I said, bitch, I don't give a fuck how much you want to play a victim. I'm not Angela. I'm not motherfucking Nyla Taz. I'm not none of these bitches you used to manipulate. I don't give a fuck, bitch. Do you understand me? Now, I don't know who she thinks she's playing with.
Now, I stated that for a reason, okay? I stated that for a reason because I wanted to show you. This is the reason why I don't go on panels when people talk about mental health. I don't do so. You know why? Because usually when I tell the truth and give my experience, this is the kind of treatment you get. This is the disrespect of Black professionals in YouTube. This person, instead of asking Miss Olivia questions about her profession, the amount of autistic clients, her experience with autism, or what modalities she used and what settings that she worked in with these type of clients, you want to argue based on some minuscule YouTube article. That's what you choose to do. You want to argue on a YouTube article. This is, you see, it's cringing. It is cringing. And I love myself, Uppity Unicorn. Uppity Unicorn is a sweetheart. Okay? She means well, but she's wrong on this. And as a mental health professional, I can't co-sign that. Miss Olivia was 100% correct. She was 100% correct. And I will give her props for telling the truth. Now, I'm going to say something else, because I'm going to show you all proof of what I'm stating. Because I don't, when it comes to my profession, I don't play. You see, people get up here and say all kinds of stuff, you know, and they're wrong. This is an article that I just received 2 months ago. I hope you all can see it. Self-diagnosing in the digital world. I'm going to read aspects of this article to help you understand why it is wrong to self-diagnose. G Dizzle said if she was debating a white mental health professional, she would have backed down and respected the opinion of the white person. Possibly. But the fact, you know, just like you, just the dismissal, that's just like me telling G Dizzle how to code and do all types of computer technology strategies and skills and reading languages, and I'm sitting here and saying, well, G Dizzle, you know, I read in USA Today that technology is going to do this and technology is going to do that. And then G Dizzle trying to tell me, no, D Darrell, this is what it is. Well, we just going to have to agree to disagree. So just the hell with my training, the hell with my clinical experience, the hell with my utilization and my licenses and certifications, the hell with everything that I have endured and worked in this setting. I'm going to say this. I have not worked with a lot of autistic children in my career, but I have worked with enough. I worked with some. Now, what I have worked with is, and this is something else that is missing. I want everybody to be cognizant of this. I want you all to also understand that just because a person is diagnosed with autism, don't mean they don't have other disorders. Don't you understand that there's other illnesses that run comorbid with autism? A lot of kids with autism have ADHD or ODD, or oppositional defiant disorder. They may have a mood disorder. They may have bipolar disorder. They may have anxiety, other types of anxiety or stress-related illnesses. Shout out to Topaz. That's another mental health professional in here. And I see why Topaz don't talk mental health on her channel, and I get it. But when we're talking about self-diagnosis, how the hell you can be the professional for yourself? Explain that to me. Explain the rationale of you being the professional for yourself. Yes. And I talked about mild, moderate, severe, profound, severe, Topaz. But Topaz, you got people who read an article who claim they know more than a professional. I read the features, therefore I know. The autism community accepts self-diagnosing. No, they don't. The professional, the autism community, yes, you gave up, and I gave up too. Oh, it's all good. But I'm going to read this to help you understand what the American Counseling Association, one of the most reputable mental health and the most reputable counseling organization in the country. This is what they think about self-diagnosing in the digital world, which is basically social media. They said, for better or worse, social media posts about mental health paired with the ease of Google's one's own symptoms. Now notice how they stated that. They're being sarcastic in a sense. are enticing to many people to self-diagnose. In fact, 2001 Vox article, How Mental Health Became a Social Media Minefield, asserted that social media is becoming known as the WMD, the WebMD of mental health. Some clinicians appreciate the self-awareness that can result from social media postings, online searches of mental health, whereas others focus more on the potential harm of self-diagnosis can cause. Counselors need to be aware, let me repeat, need to be aware of the hazards of self-diagnoses, but many in the profession believe that they can use it to gain insight into the inner world of the client. Now, what they're saying here is that we have to look at the hazards of self-diagnosing, meaning that you shouldn't be doing it. But also, from a therapeutic standpoint, we can take that curiosity of mental health and allow it to bridge upon a client learning about themselves and their true diagnoses or the true behavior issues or psychological issues that they truly have. That curiosity can be transitioned into a beneficial therapeutic relationship along with psychoeducation of what you clearly and truly have. So therapists are looking at the fact that yes, we don't necessarily co-sign you doing that. However, the fact that you are doing this gives me the opportunity to understand that you're searching for answers of why I do and say and behave and respond in certain ways. So therefore, I'm going to use that as an opportunity to effectively treat you in a way that you can understand that, yeah, you may have read these symptoms and these features, but let's understand that it may not necessarily mean this, but it could mean potentially that you have another set of things or other things that are going on, and therefore you will most probably be open to treatment. Okay, so yes, there is a positive, but then we also can look at it how we can turn that's a negative, but we can also look at how that negative can be turned into a positive, because 9 times out of 10, a person who is curious about their mental health and self-assessing, they would be more apt to be open to understanding more aspects of mental illness and their own truly official diagnosis. Okay. They're also saying that other clinicians choose to focus on what they can learn from a client's self-diagnosis. In her practice, Ms. Michelle Malouf says that she has noticed more clients that they have that they come in asking if they have a particular mental health diagnosis because of social media content. A client told her that they thought they may have been obsessive compulsive disorder. Then Malouf asked why. And she said, well, I saw it on TikTok about signs of what you may have OCD. Now, doesn't that sound familiar of what Uppity Unicorn stated in some of the things talking about on TikTok, or some of that on TikTok she saw this and that about mental health symptoms, and then she looked up the features for autism. And look, there's nothing wrong with people spreading information about mental health illnesses. But we don't want people to run into the danger of thinking because they've read features that necessarily means that is you. What those features say is that in combination with other features or symptoms, particularly on how long they have presented themselves, the intensity, the environment, long term, you may have these things if they fall in within the criteria, not because you're taking and piecing situations of you acting in a certain way. Now, Malou stated that her client said, I saw this TikTok video about the signs that you may have OCD. I resonated with some of the symptoms, but not all. So I'm not sure if I have it. My situation wasn't exactly like the person in the video, but it got me thinking. Now, to me, that's a person who's curious about her behavior, may have encountered some psychosocial issues interacting with others, and she's wondering if I potentially have a mental illness. She ran into a TikTok video that and somewhat gave an illustration of one, I may say, which is an anxiety disorder. OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, is a anxiety or stress related disorder. Okay, and she's wondering, could I potentially have that? Now, a person that does this probably is most likely going to be open and are going to be consistent with therapy because they want to change and improve themselves. Now, Malou asked more questions about the symptoms on the video that had resonated with the client, and she also educated the client on the process of determining. Let me repeat: the process of determining a diagnosis. There is a process, PROECESS, not you just reading something and thinking that you have it. Emphasizing it is not as simple as matching symptoms from a checklist. Let me repeat that. Okay? The therapist stated it is not as simple as matching symptoms to a checklist. What did the lady in the top right of the exchange stated to Olivia? I saw the checklist. I saw the checklist. I matched the checklist. I looked it up. And see, the reason why I'm bringing this video is because it identifies the inadequacies of those that think that they can self-diagnose. Because this client that is in this article speaking to this particular mental health professional equates to what you just saw in that video with Uppity, Olivia, and the person to the top right who was arguing with her about the acceptance of a self-diagnosis evaluation. And then she states, disorders manifest differently from everyone. She told the client, depend on many factors, including life experiences, gender, race, more. She also assured the client that the awareness about OCD is important information, and it could be the first step of figuring out if something is actually going on. Exactly. That's kind of what I concurred earlier. I concurred earlier to the fact that a person that goes out looking at this research and that goes about looking at this information, it can be the first step of maybe finding out that there may be something. It may be maybe not OCD, but it may be another illness. It may be another anxiety-related illness. Maybe not OCD, but something else. It could be generalized anxiety disorder or something else. It could be some other illness. It may be obsessive compulsive personality disorder, which is a cluster C disorder. It could be, but it could be the step towards that, to fostering that dialogue. Okay. So there is some positives towards that. Now, Malouf was also an ACA member, also specialized in treating anxiety, depression, complex trauma. She's thankful for the conversation. She said that this is a first step towards self-awareness, which is a good thing. She talked about the fact that it provides in which they can provide more insight to the client into potential issues that need to be worked on, regardless of whether the issues match the client's self-diagnosis. Again, the position is that, look, in a therapeutic environment, we're not going to harp on or repudiate the client for self-diagnosing, because we're understanding that they're just trying to find out what's wrong. But as a true professional will take that and learn how to make it into a therapeutic situation that can create change and growth and to understand what is really going on. And in that, the client is going to gain trust in what you're doing. Okay? So what this is basically saying is that you should not be self-diagnosing. Okay, now I'm going to read a little bit more. And then it also talks about people are hungry for mental health answers. That is true. Licensed LPC Lindsay Fleming in our private practice talked about how a potential diagnosing of or certain symptoms are affecting their lives, the way people manage them. She also talked about someone is doing that self-diagnosing by themselves and doesn't have a professional guiding them and helping them understand it. Okay? Again, I stated, forget the hell with agreeing to disagree. Please consult with a mental health provider. A lot of people like to have that diagnosis because it explains what happens. Tristan Calazano, a licensed resident counselor, stated, some people think it is stigmatizing, but a lot of people find hope in it because finally, once after all, it explains what's going on. Yeah, the curiosity. People want to know what's wrong with you. Okay? So it kind of talks about that. It kind of gives rises. As I look through this article, you can check this article out. This is a real good article. And it talks about now it talks about self-diagnosing, the dangers of it. It talks about the clients who curiosity allows them to want to seek answers. What's going on, Miss Olivia? I'm going. If you want to come up, because I'm going to be sending a link out. If you want to come up and chime in, I'm going to once I finish this this article in itself. I'm going to ask for anybody that want to come up and chop it up with me about this issue. Oh damn! It went out. Let me give me 1 second. I mean, I am a mental health professional. I'm approaching this as a professional who is educating everyone about this mental health issue. Self-diagnosing is a mental health issue that is pervasive, that is prevalent in social media, particularly YouTube. Now, let's look at the dangers. As counselors know, accurately diagnosing mental health conditions is complex, requiring years of education and training and truly understanding the nuances. But no, somebody think they can just Google something and it gives all the answers. Social media, however, tends to simplify this process and often reduces psychological theories and distorts into brief snippets and common stereotypes. For example, a social media post might boil diagnosis down to signs you are with a narcissist. Doesn't that sound familiar? Signs you're a narcissist are things you didn't realize about ADHD, or a meme that may depict someone with avoidant attachment, agonizing over their choice of either cutting someone out of their life or clinging to the person so the person won't abandon them. See, this is examples. These types of posts don't address the complexity of mental health issues of any new research on the topic, such as how attachment is a pattern and not a fixed state. Okay, this is said by Elise Kennedy, an LPC, and a marriage and family therapist. So people think certain things about themselves that may resonate with something without having all the nuance behind it of what that actually means. Kennedy noted that it has taken years of study of attachment disorder and reading several books before understanding her own attachment style. Some clients who self-diagnose come to counseling wanting to receive the same diagnosis from the professional, but people don't necessarily think about how certain diagnoses could affect them long term. Trent said, for example, some diagnoses could, after the type of life insurance policy someone can get, hinder their ability to obtain security clearances on their job. Understanding the potential long-term implications makes her careful and cautious about diagnosing clients. Yes, there are companies that will not hire you or will not consider you if you have a certain type of mental health illness. Matter of fact, there may be mental health. You can't even if you are not deemed psychologically fit as a therapist, you can lose your license. If you have been deemed as unstable or have so many hospitalizations and things of that sort, you may lose your license based on your mental status. Okay? So The client has the need for validation. My job as a therapist is not necessarily to validate, but to necessarily educate and provide a therapeutic environment that you understand what's truly wrong with that, what's truly maybe wrong, even if it's not congruent to what you thought by your self-diagnosis. See, as a therapist, I'm taking a position as a professional. I'm fostering the mental health relationship. Okay? Therefore, in that process, I'm going to give you my professional clinical opinion, assessment. Whether you agree or disagree, it's based on my clinical skills. Now, I sent the link out here for those that want to come up, and I am up for any evaluation of what I stated in regards to self-diagnosing. We should not be self-diagnosing. We have another mental health professional. The information man is up in here. We got Topaz, we got the mental health, we got Topaz, the information man, Miss Olivia. Self-diagnosing is dangerous. It can be dangerous. My whole thing is that I want people to ascertain the fact that you cannot think because you read something or saw something and you take, let's say, on average, the features of that diagnosis may range anywhere between 7 to 9 or 12 different features, and pick and choose based on your experience, and you think that, oh wow, you know, that you know, sounds like me. Oh, I remember when I did this. Oh, I did that. No, there's a process to that. There's a clinical interview that has to be, there's a clinical interview that has to be done. There's potential psychological testing and assessment and evaluation and appraisal. Okay? A psychosocial assessment is done. Some of this stuff, a full battery can take 4 to 5 hours to complete. But you're going to assess someone and you're going to definitely just dismiss the therapeutic process of giving a diagnosis. Nobody just goes around throwing a diagnosis. And you get better at it through time. That's why you do continuing education, your own self-education. But you're going to totally dismiss that because you read a Google article. That makes no sense. So I hope that the article in itself provided a reference, because that's coming from the ACA. That's not coming from D. Durrell. I'm a member of ACA. I'm also a member of TCA. So that's a reputable mental health organization. Go ahead, Chaos, and then I'm going to go to Topaz.
Yeah, is it with the continuing of the last live stream, D. Durrell, about self-diagnosis, or this is something that you noticed for the comment section of the last video you did when you were dealing with the definition of it? Because I know a lot of people ask about self-diagnosing themselves, and some of them feel that they don't want to go see nobody because they're their best therapist. You hear this, right?
That's foolish thinking.
Who's what?
That is foolish thinking.
It is. But I've noticed one lady on Facebook, I'm not saying her name, she said that on one of her little Facebook lives a year ago. And after me hearing that, I said, yeah, you definitely should not be in a relationship. Lastly, you don't want to talk about criticizing men. You need to get some help, in my opinion.
Okay.
So
now I also want to understand that when people speak of an anxiety of seeking a professional, you know, it also speaks to how mental health, the field is being perceived. Because one of the biggest hang-ups that people don't want to go to because they don't want to feel like they're crazy, they don't want to feel inadequate, you know, and so on. So I understand there's going to be some level of anxiety when seeking a mental health professional, and the negative, you know, aspects of what people perceive someone who's a patient. That's why these things are confidential and not to be exposed as far as your information. We want to, and see, I think psychoeducation can alleviate some of these concerns. And I think that's why in the article itself, it stated that seeking, even though a person comes to you with they're seeking a self-diagnosis, we can turn that into a positive because we understand that person is open to treatment and open to understanding what is wrong as far as the behaviors that they're exhibiting and how it can be treated. Hey Topaz, how you doing, Queen?
I'm all right. How y'all doing? Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. What's going on?
Okay, give me 1 second.
You still in Europe, Topaz?
Okay, so I'll let her come back. So I felt like, and I want Uppity, if Uppity is listening, this is not any way of disparaging you. It's more of me because I care about you, and so forth, because we've been cool for a long time. It is not beneficial for you to go around saying some things, and then you're trying to intellectualize why you have this diagnosis with not knowing the full context about autism. Okay, go ahead, Topaz. I see you there.
Okay, so I'm sorry, y'all. I was just ordering some food. I left work on Friday, so I'm not cooking.
No problem,
You're not in Europe. You're not in Europe, Topaz. What happened to Europe?
No. I'm back at home. I got home yesterday.
Yeah. Okay.
So I did want to come up here because I do want to say this, though. I do feel like it needs to be noted. Hello. Okay, that she did say that she's undergoing testing, right? So I think that means that she falls under that category. I think she's looking for answers, and the self-diagnosis part that she's doing led her to go and present for treatment, because one of the things I wanted to bring up is that without a formalized diagnosis, you can't access benefits, you can't access support and resources in your community. So, it's kind of like just having it and sitting there. You don't get the accommodations. So you do need a diagnosis from a licensed professional to access some of the things that will make life better for you with this disorder. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Now I have a question with that, because you know how long Uppy been saying she has been diagnosed with autism?
Yeah, for a while.
Exactly. And a test doesn't, testing don't take that long.
Yeah. Now here's the thing. I've only recently heard her say she's undergoing testing. So maybe, she's been saying this, and now maybe she is finally presenting for services, because, I don't know. I can't assume what it would be like to say, hey, I want to go into the office and actually do this testing. Like you mentioned, it is anxiety, because do you really want this diagnosis? What happens if they say yes?
But you do know that Uppity also has stated that she had borderline personality disorder. Which
she said she was professionally diagnosed with that one, though. Professionally.
Yeah. Now my thing is this. I'm not going to even go into it, because I don't want. I'm gonna just stay within my ethics. But I'm gonna just say that when you but you do understand. I'm gonna say, Topaz, what do you professionally think when someone, okay, they came out and said they have one illness, when she said she professionally, and then you come around and say you have something else?
Well, I'm gonna tell you, like, in the field, you do know, like, there's time. It takes years to get the accurate diagnosis, because what you present with when you come into services, and then there are some symptoms for which you feel so good that you don't need services, so you don't come in to get diagnosed during those episodes. So there are certain diagnoses where you get misdiagnosed initially, and then upon the provider working with you and seeing you throughout times and different periods and different episodes, they can narrow it down. Yeah, so most initial
diagnoses can change.
Right. So most initial diagnoses are usually pretty vague from my understanding. Yeah. And then they get more specific as time goes on, because you rule out stuff. So exactly. A lot of people will have in their documents, rule out this disorder, means I saw something now that doesn't line up with this, so we can take that off the table. Yeah, so
a provisional diagnosis. Yeah.
Exactly.
So my thing is, I'm not saying that autism can't run comorbid with because it can, because I've seen it. I've seen the diagnosis of someone having mild form of autism and borderline personality disorder, and along with other things. But yeah, I'm looking at the presentation of how this is over time, being that I've known Uppity for like over 2 years, and My thing, she said she was diagnosed with this, and then this autism thing came out of nowhere. And my thing is that, does she understand the nuances of how people with autism behave? Because people with autism don't articulate the way she does, and they're not as social. There's social cues and different things that they are not, they don't respond within a normal range that she displays, and she's not aware of that.
Well, okay, so now here's the thing. I've heard her say that before this. So when she was mad at me a while back, she did say that she had autism. So this is not the first time I've heard her say that she was diagnosed with autism. Second of all, now, it just depends. Like, a person that gets services can eventually be indistinguishable, but there are 3 hallmark symptoms. There's like social ineptitude, there is the communication barriers, and I can't remember the third. I think it's like sensory stuff that is going on. So we're not in her life. We don't know if she has those other symptoms. So I'm saying, like, I'm reserving judgment to see what the battery tests say if she ever comes back and tells us this. But I think it's possible. I think she could.
We have to look at the restrictiveness of it,
right?
Because there's restriction in regards to emotionality, in regards to responsiveness, the verbalization of things. Listen, I'm reserving too, but at the same time, I'm not going to allow people to just sit here and say I self-diagnose myself. And my thing is, we don't know if she's gotten testing. I don't think she got testing, because it don't take that long to give. For as long as she's been saying she's been autistic, it don't take that long to get a diagnosis for that. If you can get a diagnosis within 3 days to a week.
For the most part, they try not to stretch it out for a week like that. Like when you get a battery of testing, you have appointments back to back, day to day, so they can get it done.
So it don't take much. She's been saying this for months. So that doesn't. I'm not gonna look. I'm just gonna say it is not consistent with the field, with what's done. That's all I'm gonna say about it. I'm not here to say things as a way to make her look bad or anything like that. That's not my purpose. My purpose is to educate people on the fact that people should not be self-diagnosing. And when another mental health professional is telling you that, the dismissal of it, the adverse reaction that you give to somebody that has over 30 years of experience in this, and you just clearly I have an issue with that.
Dang, D-Darrell, you old, because I only got 22 years and you got 30. I'm just messing with you.
I got 23 years experience. I'm talking about Miss Olivia. Miss Olivia was
okay.
Miss Olivia was trying to tell her that you cannot self-diagnose, and they gonna use Google as if the Google search was more credible than.
And it still tell you don't self-diagnose, D. And then I just wanted to touch on this too. For her to be running her mouth all this classism about all these degrees that she got, all her accomplishments, that's nice, but it's just like, you cannot try to waive your higher education in people's faces, the fact that you know all these languages, and then talk shit about search engines like Google, and then to absolve yourself of all your accountability in certain situations. You tell motherfuckers that we're dumb because we're not accepting your self-diagnosis. And then we did Google it, and it still turned out that your research was wrong. Like, I understand, D-Darrell, a lot of people in the comments in the chat saying like Google University and making jokes, but it's just like Google still goes against her so-called advice and what she's trying to push on us, so that's also not right as well.
Well, hold on, Gynocracy, let me add to that, because here's the thing about Google and research. It's not bad, because the advent of the World Wide Web has been helpful. The problem is when you Google search engine stuff, you have to make sure that you're taking a reputable website for whatever subject it is. So if it's not a subject, if it's not a website that appears first in that search that is related and has experience, and peer-reviewed scientific backing, then it's like somebody I can type up something on the website, and depending on how popular I am, that will come up higher than WebMD or a, you know, like let's say if Beyonce decided she wanted to talk about autism, that would come up higher than like a university because she's more popular and it would appear more in searches and get clicked on. That's how the internet works. So you have to search through that to make sure where you're getting this information from.
But multiple
is
sources
appropriate.
say go against what she's saying. So for her to make it seem like we is slow and then like it's a back and forth. Like first she act like she above Google, then she's talking about, well, just Google it. And then if you Google it and it's still saying no. My whole point is like she's still wrong all around the board. Like, you know, because I looked through multiple articles.
As a professional, I'm gonna say this. I have never met anybody as an adult diagnosed with autism. Now, that's what I've encountered. Now, until somebody else tells me something different, every kid, every person that I know that was diagnosed with autism was diagnosed under the age of 10 years old.
Well, yeah, because it comes out and it can't be ignored anymore. Exactly. Even Black people that feel like I don't believe in mental health and all of that kind of stuff, at some point, if they get to 10 years old, then like you can't ignore their behaviors anymore. You have to, and if you don't, somebody else will.
Yeah, so I don't, my thing
and they
is,
want to check.
Well, yeah. If you got a kid with autism, you know, that is going to cut into your ability to make your own finances. So, yeah.
Yes, it would.
Yes, it will. It will. Autism, that in itself, like I was stating, I mean, early in my career, as a paraprofessional, I worked with kids with autism that were nonverbal and they were unable to do a lot of basic ADLs.
Right.
I still look at that as true autism. When I look at those who characterize themselves as mild and highly functional, me professionally, I look at that totally different. I'm not saying it's not outside the spectrum, but when I know what true autism looks like. I've seen kids waving their hand, the repetitiveness of behaviors and gestures, being nonverbal, the grunting, the violent behavior and things that they may exhibit that may run in line with other behavioral disorders. So, and then as a professional, as a licensed professional, my thing is this. We're talking about, like, there are not a lot of ABA therapists. For those that don't understand what that is, that's an applied behavioral analysis therapist.
And Big Darrell, I'm going to say something when you finish because I actually worked in that field.
Okay, you worked in ABA? See,
yeah.
My thing is that is some very difficult stuff to do. Working with the patience and the level of patience that you have to have working with an autistic person, that was some of the most difficult work that I've ever done. I contracted with a home health agency that was servicing autistic children about 3 or 4 years ago. I did it for like 2 years. That was some of the most difficult work that it burnt me out. I couldn't even do it anymore.
What made it difficult? Hi everybody, by the way, but I wanted to catch this question before you change. Hey everybody, my loved ones. Okay. What made it difficult, sir? I mean, D. Darrell, I apologize.
What made it difficult for me, it may be difficult for another therapist. Number one, it's outside of what I typically was doing because I dealt with other behavioral issues. But the fact that these clients are nonverbal or they have minimal verbal reaction or just verbalizing is very limited.
All right, that answers my question. Okay, that does.
They're very sensitive. They're very sensitive to outside stimuli, meaning light, noise, things like that, and they don't like change. They don't like to change things. Like they want the same. Matter of fact, I got a kid right now that's 14. He's a mild form of autism and he has ADHD. He likes, when I do therapeutic stories and reading with him as part of the therapy, we've been reading the same story for the last 3 months. He's not going to change to something else. You know, I'm gonna go to Topaz. Go ahead, Topaz.
Okay, so I'm gonna say this and then I gotta go real quick. I'll be back in the chat, but I gotta take my food upstairs. So my point for bringing up the fact that I used to work with ABA was because that was my introduction into the mental health field. Right after I got my bachelor's, that's what I was doing as employment while I was in grad school. And so I went from a one-on-one ABA therapist up to like the regional director, and I was associate certified. And sometimes I think about going back and getting my BCBA. And I understand what D. Durrell is talking about it being a difficult population to work with, because one of the common theme of the 3 hallmark symptoms that must be present for diagnosis, because I used to also do the diagnosis and the ABLES assessment, because that tells you how to start that treatment plan. Anyway, the point of all that is that the 3 things that the 3 hallmark symptoms have in common, the thing that is the theme between them is a retreat into their own world. And one of the things that makes it difficult to work with them is that they don't care, they don't respond to social praise like we do. Like, you know how a typical developing 3-year-old
within the normal range.
Right. A typical developing 3-year-old, you can give them a high five and they'll work all day for you just for your smile as their parent. A child with autism won't. And so what normally brings the kids into services, they can get diagnosed as early as 18 months. That's the earliest they'll do it for, developmental reasons. But usually you get the diagnosis, most people get the diagnosis before the age of 3, because the parent will notice the child retreating emotionally and mentally. They have what's called self-stimulatory behaviors, where it's about the sound, the smell, the texture of something, things that we don't necessarily pay that much attention to. That's why you'll see them watching things that spin. So there's a lot of different, I work with a lot of kids, and there are some that are extremely high functioning, such that the kids will still play with them, but they just say, oh, he's just weird, he just likes that. You got to let him spin his top 3 times and then he'll come play with you. And that usually is when they've been in services such that they've been reinforced and rewarded for adhering to social norms. They don't actually care just because the social stuff, they had to get a reinforcer, like something tangible or edible or something that they care about.
Right.
Yeah.
So it is very possible to have somebody that is extremely high function. And what you will also see is a hyper focus on something. So, I hope that Uppity takes this as the compliment that it's meant to be. It is very possible that she could know all of these languages, because if she's hyper focused on learning stuff like that, like she's extremely excited to learn about phonics and pronunciations and different languages, that would be something that she could do way more easier than other people, because we would be distracted by outside stuff that is blocked out for her. So does that make sense? That's just an example. Now, I don't know if that's true. She has not told me that.
It makes sense, but to me, I'm looking at it.
It does make sense.
I know you're being as neutral as you want, but I'm just looking at it, man. Clinically speaking, I have never had a client that was diagnosed with autism.
Now that is true. I've never had that either.
I'm going to go with my clinical experience, and I'm going with what's consistent with with the field and my clinical experience and what's basically said within research. And
right.
That's just
no, you're right. I have not had a client that was diagnosed in adulthood, because for most people, they would have somebody would have noticed it, and it would have been, you couldn't have ignore it. And then also, like, an adult who has autism would not present for services. They would be fine in their own world. See, there's not this need for them to connect like that.
No, it's not,
and for some people, it's actually aversive. They would avoid that. So, I will agree with you. That is true.
Yeah, and also when you look at the response and from an emotional perspective, the emotional responses, I've never had an emotional autistic person that I've treated.
They're detached. They're very detached.
I never have. Now, I'm not saying that they're not. Now, there are those that may get angry and they may want something. Let's say if you took their toy or something like that, and they want that toy, they may act out or grunt and do different things in regards to something they want. But when I'm looking at the continuity of emotions back and forth verbally, that is not conducive. It's not consistent with the DSM. That's all I'm going to say in regards to that illness.
Okay, so let me say this real quick.
Okay.
They do have emotions. It's just not in line with what is considered to be normal and common for everybody else. So they will feel sadness. It's just it's not going to be related to what we think is sadness.
Yeah. It's usually more fixated on some situation, an object, or something that makes them comfortable.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah. So let me go ahead.
Okay, so I'm gonna get down and I'll come back up if you need me to, D. Durrell.
Okay, all right, boo. All right, so let me go to
I love you
Mella.
so fast. Okay.
Go ahead, Mella. You wanted to
Oh
say
no, I'm done. I only had a question about introvert versus extrovert, as
okay,
how it could be confused with adult, someone diagnosing themselves. Like
okay,
they may think that because they have this behavior that they
right,
would prefer not to exercise, that they start looking up on Google, the Google doctor,
right,
and they misconstrue the fact that they are not trained in the field to think, like maybe you're just extroverted to the point where you haven't highlighted that your personality dictates that you look up stuff. Like that's what you do. You look up stuff. But if you're not certified in a field of I mean, you have a state license, right? So that requires a certain amount of training and expertise. And so
right.
somebody just randomly, you know, shooting the dice, that's what it is. When you look up when you diagnose yourself on Google, you shooting the dice because you don't really know what you're doing. And that's what I wanted to say. I'm going on
Right,
mute.
right. And to me, again, this is not me just speaking to this is me speaking to people in general, and to the fact that even though you read the what you also got to understand, there are other diagnoses that are similar to autism. There are other forms of communication disorders, that are similar, that actually present very Asperger's. That when Asperger's was its own standalone diagnosis, Asperger's was very similar to the point where they decided to change it and make it part of the autism spectrum. Also, you got to look at unspecified communication disorder and social communication disorder. Those are also other forms of communication disorder that have similar features. Now, there are some differences, but they do present somewhat similarly. And my thing is, you may think you have autism because it's the popular hot word in the mental health field, but you may have another communication disorder that has
And
minor.
there's also delusions of grandeur where people believe that because they have this obsessive compulsive ability to constantly look up information, they deem themselves a guru, and it's
Right?
like people have to,
And
actually.
that enters into a whole nother realm of illness.
Go ahead, baby. Go ahead. Thank you.
No, go ahead. No. Go ahead. You can continue. I just wanted to say that goes into a whole nother family of issues when you have
I think
grandiosity
it's
and so forth.
fascinating when people declare themselves to be experts and gurus and professionals without the classification of having sat before a board of authoritative members in that field to
Right,
determine whether or not you qualify for that title. They're just going to determine for themselves they're a guru, a professional, an expert. It's like
right,
to me, that's self-aggrandizement.
right.
I don't know if I pronounced that word correctly, but
It's grandiose. It's grandiose.
that's all I want to say.
Yeah. So my
Yeah.
question, and then I'm gonna go to reigning woman. What do you think about the pushback that Miss Olivia got when she was trying to tell him you cannot? It's like they refused to listen to that. And then they wanted to bring up the Google being more. I mean, that was the thing. That was to me the reason why I did this video is because I could not get over the fact that Miss Olivia was actually giving them bona fide truth, and they refused to listen to it. Any response from anybody about that?
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised by any of this stuff. There's a lot of narcissism. I wouldn't call it mental health issues. It's just a lot of narcissism and people using mental health as an escapism for why they do unaccountable behavior. That's why I've been watching this. I've actually played some of this stuff at the VA and allowed different people to listen. They're like, these people are full of, and I mean, you start when you start hearing people use other things like this is why I do what I do, or this is why I do that, then it's just a bucket of excuses. And so they'll use certain types of people or talking points, or they'll look it up and say, this is why I do what I do, because it says it out of this page or this type of form that somebody wrote. Mind you, it was just a paper, or just somebody like a student wrote it. Not everything is actually done by a professional. You can have people write columns or things. You can find anything online that can actually agree with your talking point, and people will use that little grain of a stance to stand on versus that of a professional. So, like I said, and I mean, I've seen this time and time again. These type of behaviors from not just from her, but from men also, or just anybody. As long as I've been doing this, and I will tell you honestly, one of the things, and I can only speak for D Darrell and Classic Ruby and Topaz. Most professionals will strongly suggest you never to talk about your mental health issues online.
Facts.
They'll tell you that. They will honestly, strongly, they won't even try to go down that rabbit hole with you. They will not do that. And in that protecting that of the person, as well as showing you like, hey, you should talk about it. But you'll see people get on and start talking about this stuff, and you start, and people will say, oh yeah, you can come on the panel and then we can do a healing. Like, no. You will do that behind closed doors, behind where you have a paper saying, hey, I am liable by law. I cannot talk about any of this, what I just talked about with you, unless it's that of endangering yourself or somebody else. And I know, because I've been there and sat in that chair many times and talked with psychiatrists and therapists. And they will tell you, you are at a safe place. What you say with me stays with me unless it's something dangerous. They won't talk. They won't. But I don't know why people get on panels and talk about these kind of things, or start trying to. Everybody's some kind of guru, or something. Like, if they're like, most people who are within their practice will tell you, I'm not acting within my practice while I'm on a panel. I don't know why motherfuckers always think there's always somebody saying, oh, he just diagnosed me. No, he just told you his opinion as a person.
Exactly.
Versus that of the professional. The professional is not going to address you how the panelist is addressing you.
Exactly, because there's a difference, and
There's a difference.
when people take someone that they have come to know, their background being in a clinical profession, and they take their opinion as if it is a clinical diagnosis, that's bogus. That's totally bogus.
That's why I stopped. I created a whole channel so that I wouldn't have those issues.
And it got hardly no views because people don't get to go to there, but they'll.
So because people were asking me questions, and then when they didn't like what I stated because it didn't go in line with what they thought, then all of a sudden you want to start, trying to criticize my training, and you're not a real therapist. You this, I'm not going to do all of that. So what's going on, Raining Woman?
Good afternoon, Darrell. Not to take over. Can you hear me?
Hey,
hey, woman.
Hey, it's good to see you, and also Mela BT GTO. So, I'm very glad that you did this stream, Darrell, and I really hope that Uppity Unicorn is listening, because you guys do speak, you guys are close, and I do know that you are someone that she does trust, right?
Right.
And that you will do things when it comes, and that this is not even just about or just for the unicorn. This is actually for any and everyone to know, right? But I also wanted to say that the thing with the importance of not just going to professionals for a diagnosis, but also to get therapy, to also to find your safe place, right? To be able to learn and recognize different triggers, as well as coping skills.
Right.
To be able to understand different patterns in your life, in your and any changes, right? To help you also in navigating in society, because society is not equipped and is not made to navigate around you, right?
Correct.
To help you to identify your strengths, your weaknesses, and any type of, and not just triggers, but also any type of pain points, right? And stuck points, so that you can be able to identify for yourself when you're not in therapy, when you're safe physically, mentally, and emotionally, right? And when you're safe, not just for yourself, but when you're also safe for others and vice versa. Social media can be such a dangerous realm, especially when you have the aspect of YouTube where you actually can communicate with people in like chat rooms, comment sections, because this is a real form of socialization. And if you're going to be active on social media and in social media, these things need to be also discussed with your therapist so that they can help you in
You got that right.
how you handle the socialization, right?
Right.
What happens of it is when you don't do that, you will try to use your your mental issue or your emotional issue as a way to absolve yourself from any accountability and responsibility. And we see this over and over again and be upset with others when they do not want to fall in line with your self absolvement.
Right. I agree wholeheartedly with what you're saying.
Well
I mean,
stated.
yeah, I don't, I really can't say anything else outside of that because you pretty much
I
stated it
wanted.
very concisely. And, oh, go ahead, BMT.
No, I wanted to say this. Like, I have a next door neighbor that he has mental health issues, but at no time have I ever seen him ever say, I did what I did because I'm like this. I've never seen him say that. Granted, he lives with his mother. He gets help. You know what I'm saying? He has a nice little job at the grocery store. You understand? Like, I don't want people to think that, oh, because they have mental health issues, they're not functional. But I've never seen him use, well, the reason why I do what I do is because I'm like this. He's never not one. They don't do that. I've never seen any of them, from speech therapy to me being in high school, or literally me being at the VA as a veteran, and I've never seen any of us use those kind of things, because that's seen as that looks bad upon that community. You understand what I'm saying? Like, we don't do that, because then that's like you're a representation of other people. And so I only reason I get upset when I hear people say, "Oh, I do that because I'm like this." No, because you wouldn't be acting in certain ways, or you wouldn't be doing certain stuff. Now, if there's something wrong with you, let's acknowledge we need to get you help. But if you're doing certain behaviors, right? And like we've had young ladies who have been in special needs, and we were told, hey, leave them alone, leave them girls alone. Okay, so we can acknowledge that. But if you're saying and you're trying to play Dr. Seuss and shit and use words, no. At some point, we're going. You're going to start getting questioned. You're going to start being looked at. I can use. I'm use this for example.
My children are in school. So in school, they have a spectrum test, and correct me if I'm wrong, Darrell, they have a spectrum test for children. I did a conversation talking about how my little daughter is dyslexic because they did a test. They run tests. They have professionals. They check up on them. They say, how you doing? Do you need any kind of tools? There's stuff that the parents have to do. There's no way all of a sudden, well, I got this going on with me all of a sudden. Like there's patterns that start showing that they start asking questions. Now I'm not saying I'm not listen, and I'm feeling my way out this as a black father. So I take this very serious when I hear people saying, hey, I got this, I got that going on. But I deal with children in school that have these issues. And they don't just do things by perchance. Like they're like this, but they also have certain things that they do. Like I keep fidget spinners in my pocket. So that way when the boys start getting aggressive or angry, hey, come on, hey, I got you this. Chills right out. I walk with him, take him somewhere, and after that we'll go eat lunch or do some stuff until he can get him back to being focused. Like
Explain what a spinner is. I know what it is, but maybe the audience doesn't. If you don't
the
mind,
fidget
please.
spinners, you know those
Yeah,
things you've been seeing at the grocery store that the kids hold between their fingers and they start spinning them around.
yeah, I know.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah,
self-soothing tool.
right. So there's different things that I keep in my pocket or different people keep in their pockets to help them children out there at the school. I'm just talking about what I do as a volunteer at the school. But there are people, but as long as I know, there's a guidance counselor that's on board. There's a bunch of people that are on board helping with these things, as well as there's a therapist and psychiatrist that come to the school. Correct me if I'm wrong, Diderot, but they come to the school and they have a whole file on these children and on these people. So the state starts picking this up, like that was like, I think my daughter's about to go to my son and daughters, they're going to get ready to go to middle school. So that those profiles follow you. You get what I'm saying, Mella? Like they keep up with you. So that way they're like, hey, do you need anything we can do to help the family or help you transition, whatever. So these kind of things are to help people. That's why I kind of look at certain stuff like, wait, did you go get tested? Are you getting the proper help? But you never know who's listening. And there's a lot of channels for people like there's a mother, I think she has an autistic son. And she has a really good support system. But I probably will never see that woman in these kind of chats, saying or talking some of the stuff. Like I just don't see those kind of people do that. Not saying they don't have lives, but the way how they examine like dealing with people is a night and day on how we as people, that are cognitive deal with people. I'm just being fair. Like I don't want to BS it, but
Exactly. And
it's
it's
just
it's
different.
fair, it's also fair to announce that there's a distinguishment between the adult who's self-diagnosing versus the child who is being formally introduced into a clinical setting of examination and the process that it takes to make sure that the classification is correct.
Right.
Like a person that's an adult and they are fidgety or they are awkward or what have you, the problem comes in where they're clever enough to think they can hide behind a protected class. That is the manipulation that Miss Olivia was speaking of. It's like, so you think because you have examined some things that are displeasing that you can't seem to change
Right.
about your personality or your behavior. And that's what I identify with how Miss Olivia corrected her. Yeah, she did it in an exorbitant way, but at the same time, I didn't miss the details as to how she corrected her. It's like you don't get to hide behind a protected class just because you say so with your quirks and misgivings of ill behavior.
Right.
Now I want to add something because I want people to understand this. When they kept repeating this thing about self-diagnosis is accepted within the autistic community, I want you to understand that there are groups, every group, like there are groups for people who have intellectual deficits, schizophrenia, bipolar, major depression, people who go through, there's a lot of, and being PTSD groups, a lot of these different types of groups. When somebody comes in with similar problems, they're going to accept you in because they're trying to support you. That doesn't mean that they recognize the diagnosis. They're not. That doesn't mean that they want you to get the help. So they're not going to turn you away. So if you, let's say you got a mom, a single mother of two, with a kid that got, she divorced, she got a kid with autism. She don't know if he got autism, but it looks like he got autism. She's searching for answers. She look up something. She call you all looking for help. They're not gonna turn this woman away.
Right.
They're going to accept her in, take her in, give her support. Even if you say your child, if this is a reputable organization, because there's all kind of organizations, they're going to refer you to a professional to get an official diagnosis.
Right.
So this thing about, they're missing. When you say something like the autism community accepts self-diagnosis, no, they don't. And if they do, that's not a reputable organization. And also, those organizations are not filled with mental health professionals. They're
exactly.
they're actually filled with people who are supporting each other because they're either related, married to, or are associated with someone who has that illness, and they're looking for support. Those are the majority of that makeup of that demographic is not mental health professionals. So
and even in the grant writing, they espouse that in the grants that they get qualified for. They say that this is not to be, I forgot how they mentioned it, but basically it's not to be misconstrued for, professional mental health evaluation. You know what I'm saying? It's just a support group, and they get grants for that. And they are allowed to get grants for that, but they can't claim that they are a clinical environment.
No, right. And I'm glad you put that up there, Darrell, because the majority of the kids at my children's school that do have it, majority of the staff and volunteers, we keep them with their iPads charged. We have stations for their iPads to stay charged, fidget spinners on our pockets. Like we're predominantly volunteer. There's only so many guidance counselors and staff there. So we're not running around saying we're professionals. But if we see a parent who's having a problem with their child, and we're not going to treat them bad or get out of here until you come back with, no, we're going to, we're going to like hold them down until the guys out say, okay, we got a test coming up. Make sure that they're ready, that they're well refreshed, and it's going to be taxing on them. But but we're going to support that person until we can figure out where to go from there. But there's a difference of, oh yeah, I'm in the community. No, that's like saying, for me as a veteran, I got PTSD. I'm going to ask you certain things, and I'm like, hey, so what's going on with you? If you start saying certain things that you come from CSI and TV shows, or you heard Dr. D. Darrell said on no, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. They'll start checking you on that kind of stuff. People know, but a lot of us, this thing it runs deep with impacting a lot of people, families, volunteers, a lot of society. You know what I'm saying? So, there's some things questionable. I even ask, when people start talking about their diagnoses, but that's a sensitive thing. Like diagnoses don't holistically talk about their stuff openly with other people, but it takes a formulation of trust. So they don't just get on and just start talking about it.
And children, those children, they learn differently. There are children that can learn their name through singing the letters, as opposed to actually being pointed out the letters. Children think, there are all types of children in the world, and they think differently. The necessity, I should say, of the professional is to determine how that child thinks. And that's why it's important to respect that environment of clinical therapy, because otherwise you're just guessing. And that's the distinguishment between a clinical professional environment versus somebody that's just trying to figure it out as they go. That's the difference.
And another thing is, I have a couple more points I'd like to make, and if you don't mind. Okay,
then
so
go ahead.
Okay, so another thing is this, right? We must recognize that for people who know that they have a mental issue, right? No matter the degree, they are more prone to entering into an emotional crisis than someone who does not, right? And therapy allows you to recognize the proper steps to take care of yourself and who to call or connect with on the outside in order for you to get the support that you need in the middle of a crisis. And almost anything can trigger a crisis. It's up to the individual to be able to recognize when they're in a crisis and to then take the step that they need to have that crisis intervene, because it is not a guarantee that someone online or that someone just around, like if you're out in public, is able to recognize, or even at a family event, are able to recognize that you are in a crisis.
Exactly.
And it's important to identify too, who is your support system, who can you trust in different settings, so that they can, you can share with them, what signs to look out for that you recognize with that have been identified, so that they can help bring you back home when they see that you're either in a crisis or have been triggered.
Right.
And help bring you back to a calm, right? And another point I would like to make is, I think I lost it. I'm gonna go to Honeybee. I apologize. I'm gonna let Honeybee go.
Take your time, baby. Take your time.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Hi, King Darrell. How are you doing?
Hey there, Honeybee.
Hey, how's the panel? Hey, everybody.
We are fine and present.
Yes, great. Thank you, Honeybee.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Darrell, what I was asking in the chat was that, okay, you have like when certain things have to be checked in, when you go to doctors, hospitals, or whatever, that's how they get their data, right? But out of, say, like they say 90%, whatever, but you do got a certain percent that fall through the cracks, right? I do remember watching an episode of I don't know if it was America's Got Talent or whatever. It was this young dude that he really couldn't speak that well, but he got on that piano and everybody's mouth flew open when he did a soul version of oh Lord, no, don't even quote me because I don't forgot who it was, but he was a bad dude, right? So my question was to you in the chat was, okay, you got the professional diagnosis, but what does it take sometimes when, or is there a criteria when you run into something, say you having a dinner with somebody and their family member, right? And they've been having troubles and they was told one thing, maybe it's to click the way you did your glass or to click the way you did that fork going to your plate that spurned a reaction, right? Now, don't get me wrong. I don't know what the laws is when it comes to being a licensed person, but has there ever been times that a licensed persons went beyond their license, quote unquote, to try to take that further with a family because nothing else ever worked and they seemed like the family got a response they never had, right? When do you cross that line to where it's unethical or ethical or, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. So
okay.
There are creative ways of doing things outside of the box.
Okay.
Okay. The problem with that is you are. This is where you have to look at it. Whatever I'm attempting to do as far as me facilitating this unconventional form of therapy,
yes.
What is the risk of causing harm to the client?
Okay.
That's what you have to ascertain. You have to ascertain whether or not, if I do this, is there any type of potential harm or it's going to halt progress.
Okay.
And so if you're going to use some form of something that's unconventional based on, it has to be within the legal confines and through your professional confines. It's just maybe not co-signed by the licensing board per se, but I would say I would want to get some information on somebody else who's actually done the same thing. I would not take a step of leap on something without knowing if somebody else did and what were the outcomes. Because the first thing you want to look at, and Topaz talking about, first do no harm, second do good.
Right.
So you want to look at whether or not can it potentially cause harm. So if it's something that others have done and it's done good and didn't cause harm, then I would carefully consider that and maybe implement it. But if it causes harm or you're not confident that you may cause harm, or then I wouldn't deal with it. I would not experiment. You basically experimenting on someone at that point without knowing what the outcome. So let me give you an example. Let's say I'm dealing with a Hispanic child, and I'm a black. And so let's say the child has issues with anger, behavioral issues, not listening to parents, disrespectful, got a lot of behavioral, and everything I'm doing conventional is not working. But an unconventional thing that I may do is I may start implementing aspects of his culture into the therapy session. That's not conventional. That's a little bit. Let's say I'm taking in phrases that the family may say, take in games or different aspects of their culture, and I'm implementing it into the therapy session, and he responds to that. That's an unconventional use of therapy. Like you're not necessarily, and even though therapists do this, but I'm taking aspects of his instead of me being fundamentally, let's say I'm using a cognitive therapy. But in the cognitive behavioral therapy I'm using, I'm implementing aspects of his culture into the therapy. That's me being creative. Because I'm kind of modifying what is fundamentally cognitive behavioral therapy, but I'm taking pieces of his culture to make him feel more comfortable and to see what his response is more. He's more comfortable giving a response.
Yeah, I can dig that.
But Darrell, is that wrong though? If it works, even if it's not in your quote unquote your writings, right? As far as would that go against you? Because the family see it as, oh my God, you helped us where nobody else could. So where does that come in line with your license? Because do you go with the family that laud you like you helped my child? You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to understand what stance do a person take. You know what I mean?
I'm gonna say this: a person at my stage of the game, being I've been in this field for I've been licensed over 16 years.
Okay.
I'm more comfortable with because I know how far to take, but I don't do. I'm gonna say this: I particularly don't do unconventional stuff. I stay in line with. I may do some creative things, but I usually don't take a step out and take risk like that. I really don't. Because like Topaz stated, you gotta look at things being treatment being research tested and peer reviewed. And the thing about it is, you take a risk in which, if let's say this child start being intensified with symptoms, don't want to see me engage in some type of self-harm behavior, I'm liable for that. I'm liable for that. So I don't want to take that risk. So I hear what you're saying is that what if it works, but what if it don't work?
So did I use the wrong terminology though? Did I use the wrong terminology when I said unconventional versus like you said, where there's something in their
Hello?
culture. Did I do wrong terminology on that?
Oh no, that's fine. I mean, you can no, but yeah, that was fine.
Oh, okay. Because I didn't
Yeah.
know if there's a difference between the terminology that I use versus what you're saying, like if it's part of their culture, right? Because everybody
Right.
won't adhere to it. Because I knew somebody, a friend girl of mine, her son was autistic. And if he seen clothes going around in a laundry dryer, he would get stuck there, and it meant something to him. That's what I'm trying to say. I think a lot of things got to do with terminology that a layperson don't understand. That's why I'm asking a specific question, because I'm like, as a professional, how do you deem that family say, oh my God, you helped him, we never thought of this, and do
Right.
you abandon that versus quote unquote the textbook, right? Because even in bipolar and certain things, there was a time under mental illness you had catatonic, schizophrenic, and bipolar, right? Over the years, and we're talking many years, different things got added to each one. So when is there something in your field that has allowed a little bit more leeway, or is it staunch? You understand what I'm saying? I'm trying to get.
There's probably over 2,000 forms of therapy.
Okay.
You are allowed to be creative.
Okay.
Let me give you an example of a controversial treatment.
Okay.
Matter of fact, it actually involves autistic children. Matter of fact. Now, there was quote unquote a situation in which there were people saying that, or there were some therapists that were using unconventional means of using CBD oil to help calm, as being a common use, the oils being calming for autistic children. I had a client in Galveston where the mom used the CBD oil and was asking me my position on it and whether or not is it okay. And I told her that's outside of my expertise. I'm not a doctor. I referred her out, even though for me, as far as medical use of anything is outside of my expertise. But the
Okay.
fact that she was using the CBD oil and it was working, you know, I necessarily didn't tell her not to do it, but what I told her to do is to consult with a medical professional, meaning a psychiatrist or a doctor, and let them give a perspective on it. So I was not, even though it worked, like you stated, it helped him. He was more calm, but that is not an industry approved way of calming anxiety and behavioral issues in autistic children.
I can expound on that as a veteran. When they started legalizing marijuana, and they were like, if you can prove why you need it, a whole bunch of veterans ran to their therapists, their doctors, and all that stuff. You know, them VA therapists and staff start doing. Nope, we are not telling y'all to do that. We are not encouraging y'all. If y'all want to, there's some doctors on Google you can go look up. You can go to their clinic. We will not stop you, but they say that is outside of our expertise. Right? That was unconventional. And I'm telling you, no doctor was willing to take that. Hey, they're not willing to put their license on the line. Not for that. If something go wrong, so they'll tell you to go see outsource. Hey, you having a problem with your back, your spine, or you having headaches, you having migraines, you having night terror dreams, but you want to get that weed instead of the medicine that I know that we have researched over. Now you can go. They will send you. They won't send you there. They won't write no paper, but they'll say you can go look up on your own that type of doctor or care.
Where to go? Okay.
Go and do that. But they're not going to put their livelihood on the line, and you won't find no person to do that.
Okay.
What's up, NT?
What's going on? What's going on, D. Durrell? How you doing?
Good to see you here, player.
No, that's what's up. No, I saw the title and I heard y'all talking, and so I mean I guess that's what's going on. Because I don't know if y'all kind of veered up. What's up, Raining Woman? How you doing? You know what I'm saying? Gynocracy Takeover, BMT, Mela, Honeybee. So people are now self-diagnosing themselves with autism.
Well, that is happening in the space.
Wow. Okay, so I know this. My youngest brother is autistic, and I remember where the diagnosis came. It was a lot of different tests and things that we had to go through. Like, of course,
right.
I had like an idea that there was some form of autism, but then there are different levels of autism. So like, this is just the examples that I know. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a neurologist. I don't know those things, but I just noticed, like, when I did some research, I realized that, okay, sometimes like you give most young boys like 2 action figures, they're gonna fight with the action figures. They're gonna do things that you would do with action figures. Whereas some autistic kids may just take the action figure and just spin it. They'll just spin it. The same way with the things that they eat, like where most kids like taste, though an autistic kid may pay more attention to the texture. They may just like something just because it's crunchy, or they might even pay attention to how it makes them feel after they eat it, or something like that, the way it goes down. So those are just like little things like that I knew, and I'm sure it's like more to it. So I don't see how one person can diagnose themselves with autism. Like, how you diagnose yourself.
So, Auntie, how old was your brother when he was diagnosed?
About 4.5, 5 years old.
Exactly. See that? See that's what's in line. See that's, and to me, look, like I was stating, I'm in the people who are doing this, because it's more than just the person that's listed that I talked about in the title. There's other people claiming other stuff, or they're trying to diagnose other people with having all these different illnesses, and you shouldn't be doing that. You know what I'm saying? Now, to me, I actually literally, I mean, I guess everybody in here watches TikTok, because I've noticed as I've been watching some of these TikTok videos, I've seen a lot of things where people were putting up mental health stuff like, this is signs of ADHD or autism. I've seen stuff on autism. I've seen a bunch of stuff on narcissistic personality disorder. I've seen stuff on bipolar. So I've seen that's kind of like a common thing where people are doing little 3-minute, 2-minute videos pointing out things and dancing to music and stuff. Like, I didn't even know that was I mean, I've seen stuff on YouTube, but I didn't know that TikTok. And see, when I was reading the article by the ACA, they mentioned TikTok as one of the more popular platforms where people are talking about mental illness. See, I didn't know that. Have you all seen that or
No, I haven't. Oh my God.
Okay. So go ahead more. So tell me more about, like, how old is your brother now?
He'll be 22 next month.
Okay, so how is he functioning right now?
He's I mean, all right. So he was nonverbal probably until he was about 10. Like, he didn't even utter the words "mommy" until he was about like 11 years old or so. So now he'll just communicate to pretty much tell you what he wants. That's it. Or he might reply to, you know what I'm saying, if you say thank you, he'll say you're welcome. He'll tell you that, he wants you to grab something for him or something like that. Other than that, he can, like, we couldn't even potty train him till he was probably about maybe 11, 12 years old. Like, it was deep. But other than that, like, he could pretty much he can do everything else. Like, of course, we're never even going to see if he can drive a car or anything like that. But he does everything else. He can, clean up his room. He's got a gift with like jigsaw puzzles. He can put 4,000 piece jigsaw puzzle together in like 5 hours.
And he's probably very skillful at it too, like the best ever.
Yeah.
And see, that's the thing. A lot of autistic children or people, they'll find this one thing that they're like awesome at, and they'll it's like an unbelievable. They're like proficient at it, like unbelievably. Whether it's a instrument, a sport, or some type of skill like the puzzle thing you're talking about, drawing, painting, and stuff. They have a tendency to. I mean, not all of them, but there is a high level of those that get a skill like that, and they're like awesome. Like you said, he's doing that within 5 hours. That's like,
well, yeah, he taught himself how to understand 4 different languages just by watching movies over and over again with subtitles. With the subtitles. So even, I mean, if he wanted to, I'm pretty sure he can speak fluently, but just watching movies and, with the Spanish, the French, and the German subtitles, he was able to teach himself how to understand those languages. And I'm talking about watching them over and over, like the same movies over and over again for years. He would watch them with different subtitles.
That's cool.
Yeah. and a photographic memory too. So like even when he would be in school, or even when he'll go to, because now he goes to an adult daycare every day. They can't key in passwords and stuff on the computer, and he sees it because he'll recognize your keystrokes, never forget it. So they have to keep changing the passwords every day.
He's
or else
smart.
he'll get into your system.
Smart. He's very smart. He got some very keen skills.
Well, they used to think he was a computer hacker, and I sat in the school with him one day, and I had to tell him, I was like, he's not a hacker. Like he's a smart kid, but he's not a hacker. He's just watching your keystrokes, and they realized that. But he would watch him, he'll remember it. So that's pretty much how he's, like, real patient. He'll just sit there watching. He'll figure out what you're doing by just watching.
Another thing you brought up, I like the fact that you stated he's going to an adult daycare.
Yeah.
And I've been in the business. I've been in the adult daycare business, and I presently have an adult day program that's kind of similar to what they do in the adult daycare. And I want to talk about the fact that those type of services do wonders for that population. It gives them something to do. It's stimulating. It can be a form of, like, respite from your parents while they're engaging with other people. I mean, those type of service, those adult daycares, those are very beneficial to that population because it allows them to be active and do other things besides just sitting home trying to find something to do.
No, definitely. It just bugs me out how people think that they can sell, because there's so many different levels to to a condition like that. I don't even want to call it like a mental disorder or a disability. I'd rather just call it a condition. You're the doctor, so I'm sure you have your own terms. I would just call, because I'm like, what disability do you have? And, like, I don't see anything that's not functioning mentally, not functioning properly. It's just, maybe a condition where it just kind of sees things differently. But I don't see how one person can self-diagnose themselves, especially when it's when there's so many different levels to it.
Right.
Auntie, congrats to your family member. And D, if you don't mind, it goes back to what I was asking you. When I say you, I don't per se mean you by yourself, but consider what Aunt just said, right? And different programs or whatever. And if you're predominantly their doctor, I know you can't speak for the whole profession, but what I'm saying is, if those, quote unquote, if that's an unconventional method, because don't nobody know what's going on until that child or adult, whatever stimulates them, right? To put them into a higher mode, right? That we don't know. Does that still make you their doctor and keep them at, quote unquote, conventional? Or do you run past conventional and see them where they are? And if it's not your expertise, do you back out and let another doctor take that over because you don't want to go with that because you're conventional? Am I asking it wrong?
Yeah, for myself, I go with another doctor.
Okay.
And don't put myself at risk. Because,
okay, got you.
Again, because I don't want to take those risks.
Yes.
There's risk involved in that, and because I'm a licensed person, there's consequences and repercussions for doing something outside the party line.
Okay.
Like I said, if like I used the term with the CBD oil.
Yes.
That was unconventional, but it was working. My position is, you have a right to do whatever, but for me as a professional, my job is to tell her, I would encourage that, because she asked for my opinion. My opinion was, you need to seek a professional doctor or psychiatrist to give you an opinion on that.
Okay.
And that alleviates you from liability. Because people get sued. People, especially with that's why we have to have liability insurance. I mean, yeah, it can work, but if something goes, it's just like you just don't know the long-term occurrence of when you're doing something like that. And let's say something goes wrong 3 months, they're gonna be looking at you, and then you will have to give an assessment in front of your board with your lawyer. Explaining why that happened.
Okay.
Yeah. What's up, Recognized Game?
Well, thank you for helping me, giving me understanding. I'm finna drop down, but thank you so much for your patience. Thank you, Ann, and everybody on the panel. Thank you, Dick.
All right.
All right, sweetie.
All good.
We got another mental health professional here, Recognized Game, works at works in the profession also. What's up, brother?
I was formerly a mental health professional for about 17 years. But
Right.
what's good with you, D. Durrell? How you doing?
Hey, man, I'm good, man. I'm just doing a topic that's up my alley, something I enjoy doing, talking about.
Yeah, this conversation is everything, bro. I'm
Yes, it
really
is.
appreciating that. Especially in this sector, there's a lot of sorry about that. There's a lot of discussions about mental health and behavioral health, but people don't realize that's actually the context the conversation should be held in. So it's a lot of people who are giving their own novice opinions, and which
Mm-hmm.
is actually something that's good, which is something that actually gives a clinician like yourself something to base the reasoning for actually calling for an evaluation. So it's all pertinent, but at the end of the day, self you cannot self diagnose, because obviously diagnosis is a clinical term. So if you're not a clinician, you can't officially make a diagnosis. But I don't know if anybody touched on this, but I think there may be just a matter of semantics. I think they think they're actually saying that they're self-assessing themselves and observing and self-evaluating themselves, but probably
Well,
only
hey,
a
did you
clinician would
see the
understand that
exchange?
you really can't make an official diagnosis, and I think that's where it's being lost in
Did,
translation.
did you see the exchange that I showed between the Oracle, Olivia, and Uppity Unicorn and this other? Did you see that part of it?
I did, and I was
Okay.
away from the actual panel discussion for a little while, but
Oh,
I
okay,
did see
okay,
that part.
okay. Because to me, the way I'm looking at it is, as they kept repeating it, is almost like they were assessing. They were looking as if they were assessing themselves and evaluating themselves. Therefore, based on the information that was given on Google, because they argued her down about that.
Right.
They did not, when she gave, like, in the field you can't do that. This
Yeah.
person, this, this person is a well polished retired LCSW, and you arguing with her as if she don't know what she's talking about.
Right.
Well, you
And
know,
let's see the real.
to add to that, I'm sorry, did I cut somebody
Oh,
off?
go ahead.
All right. To add to that, I think we should just really consider that that's really atypical behavior of people who are not in the field,
Right,
because people generally believe that they can self-assess and self-evaluate themselves anyway without any subjectivity, or which is absurd, because you're not going to fully understand or
right,
even be able to observe the behaviors of others in connection with your actual behaviors. Like, a lot of people don't recognize their own triggers, behavioral
right,
triggers. A lot of people don't understand that they are being distracted, like somebody who's autistic. I mean, they may be very, very easily distracted by almost anything, but in their own mind, they might feel as though, I'm in, let's say, a classroom setting. I'm in a classroom, there's other kids in here, they're distracting me. So maybe the parent or the people in their support system may believe that these are normal behaviors. Or some people might overanalyze, like I believe the girl,
right,
the lady Uppity Unicorn. I think she's overanalyzing her
right,
behaviors without knowing everything. But I don't see her as a person who's on social media, constantly interacting with others in groups, which is something that somebody who's autistic would really struggle with, especially in groups. She
right.
seems to be able to conduct and sustain her focus for hours
That
at a
was my
time. So
observation. I said the same thing.
yeah, I'm just kind of curious of what the behaviors are that made her believe that she's autistic.
And let,
Google,
let me ask you
Google
this,
search.
recognize how many autistic children you probably worked with over the years?
Oh man, I probably worked with all kids in the spectrum. I work with the juvenile population, well, kids, I'll say.
Yeah.
For I only worked with the autistic spectrum for probably about 5 or 6 years. So I
Okay,
treated
so that means you've seen quite a
maybe,
few kids. So you're
yeah,
not. So I'm saying that to let everybody understand, you're a person that actually worked with the population. You know the population. You got experience. It ain't like you just saying this just out of nowhere. You're coming with work experience in the field with that population.
Right. Yeah. I mean, everything that you said so far is on par with what the clinical health field would accept everything that you said. But again, there's always going to be a barrier there just due to not in a negative way, but just the ignorance of people who are not, they're not mental health professionals. So they just don't know. So I always come with that approach because I realize that people do believe that they can self-assess themselves. So, that's the first barrier that as a mental health clinician, that's generally one of the first barriers that you have to break through.
Right.
Just to get people to actually understand that they are exhibiting certain behaviors that are socially unacceptable.
And accepting that assessment.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right. What's up, Ms. Oracle? Go ahead. I'm curious to hear you speak in regards to me in this situation.
Yeah, I was wanting to come up from a personal standpoint. I have a niece. She is autistic. She's high functioning. She's 9, and she was diagnosed with autism and other co-diagnoses. But she's autistic. But she was diagnosed before she was 2 years old. I started to recognize certain certain things that she wasn't what do you call it? She wasn't I can't think of the word. The kids, they have, how you when you go to your doctor's appointments like every 3 months and you're a child, she wasn't reaching certain milestones, right? And so and it had been a lot of stuff going around about black children, autism, mercury in the MMR vaccine. I'm paranoid.
Yeah, I heard that a lot. Yes.
Yeah. And so we went and had her assessed, and yes, she's autistic, but she's verbal now. But if she's triggered, she will revert back to the grunting and biting herself and pulling her teeth. Pulling her hair. She don't like loud noises. The only thing that will come, I also came up here when she was talking about unconventional ways of treating things, right? So you're autistic, with my autistic niece, she has an issue with sensory, right? Sensory issues and light. Like I said, in sounds. She's obsessed with water. We live in the country. She's obsessed with heights. We have to watch her, right? She likes to climb. She's always looking at the sky, and she's like fixated with water, right? Those are kind of common, right? In some autistic children, especially the water, right? So one thing that we did was unconventional is when she would come to my house, because sometimes my niece is overwhelmed, right? She has another child and she needs a break. And when you were mentioning like adult daycare and all those things that they have in place for the community, those things are wonderful. They are absolute help. Respite care, all of those services that you can get when you are in the community. I hope people are getting help that they need. And because it is hard to raise an autistic child. So what we figured out was when she would come to my house at first, and you kind of learn as you go, right? And so she would go to sleep at night, and sometimes in the middle of the night, everybody sleep. I would wake up, and it would be water and shampoo. Sometimes powder, sometimes lotion. I mean, streamed all over the bathroom. The bathroom done flooded because, like I said, she obsessed with water, right? And so we had to figure out a way to deal with her when she'll get up at night, right? So what we do here at my house is, now when it comes to autistic kids and animals, it's kind of iffy, right? So we didn't think, my husband got a big old Rottweiler, and we didn't think that she would pay any attention to the dog like she don't pay any attention to the chickens, right? The other kids torture the chickens. She don't pay no attention to them chickens. She go right past them like they are never there, right? And so what the dog would do, and we didn't even do this, Darrell, the dog, when she was up on the porch, when she was climbing or she was whatever, he would go and sit beside her, right? And we didn't never say nothing. So he sat beside her for like maybe Every time she came over my house for like 3 weeks. So one day, the dog laid his head on her lap, and she didn't push him away. She didn't try to hurt him or nothing. And so ever since and she recognized the dog, I couldn't believe she recognized him. So I said, well, hubby, maybe she likes the dog, right? So when she started coming over after that to spend the night, the dog would bark and cry to get in the house with Lele, right? So we can sleep at night because if she wakes up during the night after she's taking her medicine, the dog will start barking, right? And let us know she's awake. And so I found out that was something unconventional that we could do, or what the dog figured out, I guess, so that she won't hurt herself, so that she won't put shampoo in her mouth, so she won't flood the bathroom, and so she won't. I don't know what the fixation with the heights. We had to nail the window shut in the upstairs because I don't know if she'll actually try to climb out one day. As far as the water, she's always watched when we're outside. You really have to pay attention to what's going on. But I just thought it was unconventional, and we told her, and as far as the school, she goes 2 days to her special school and 3 days to regular elementary school. She's integrated into a regular classroom, right? And so, but I was so happy to figure out that she liked the dang dog. She actually paid attention to it. But they are very particular children. She only eats certain things. Like you said, you have to do things. She doesn't like change. She doesn't like a whole lot of stuff. You kind of have to be real on point with her, because when she does have an episode, what scares me and what her therapist can't even really definitively tell us is why she reverts back to being nonverbal, and she reversed back to doing the grunting. And so the question that I had for you, Game, is why do you think she reverts back to those nonverbal noises when she's triggered?
I would actually, you did give some informative statements. I would probably have to observe more in the context of where she generally exhibits those behaviors and in what context before I could actually give a concrete assessment of that. But if you could tell me, like, generally, I'm sorry.
I'm going to tell you when she does this, when she's got the sensory issue going on, like if like you can't shine a light directly in her face, right? Or she'll be startled by a noise, or something like that. And then sometimes it'll trigger her, and she's just, and you know how autistic kids are when they're triggered, she's just gone for a while.
Okay. Well, the light shining in her face could be a sense. She could have a sensory impulse that maybe she just generally responds that way. So I would, as a clinician, I would say, is it necessary for her to actually have the light shine in her face? Like, why is that happening?
No, like you could, like, say you're getting out the car and the headlights are still on, right? And it's at night, and she's walking in front of the car, and she just so happened to the light is in her face, and that's just enough to send her on a hour-long episode, because she happened to turn around and and the headlights are on.
Let me ask you some questions. Has this child ever experienced any type of traumatic experience, like a car accident or something where
she doesn't like the light? No.
Okay. Yeah, I would have to know more. That's a very specific behavior, so I would have to actually know the child more so, and know about the actual treatment plan. I'm sure there's some stuff in there that would support what other clinicians believed is actually the cause of that behavior. So I would have to evaluate
it's
that.
a trigger. They believe it's just some kind of trigger. It's some kind of trigger for her.
Was that more periodical, or was it just like, say, every so many months? She
every once in a while. Now, sometimes she'll be just fine with the lights and do the rail, and sometimes it'll send her on a tangent.
Yeah,
every once in a while.
It would be hard without having a clinical observation and kind of seeing her kind of getting a grasp of how she functions in her environment, school environment, various environments. It kind of be difficult.
We've done that. I mean, they've done it. She goes to the here in my state, they have a mental health organization called they have different facilities, but it's called Helen Ross McNabb, and they've got one in our county, and they pretty much have those facilities all over the state, and so she's got, she goes there for her therapies, she goes there for all sorts of things, including like aftercare and things of that nature, so that she can learn. She's also got an issue with being real particular about who she chooses to socialize with.
Right.
And like she's not overly playful with all the kids in school, maybe one or two. But now at home, she plays with all the kids here, Right. But at school, she's kind of standoffish. She might play with one or two, but other than that, she won't recognize you at all. And I don't even know if it's because of her autism or if it's because of her bloodline. She will absolutely turn you invisible if she wants to, Darrell.
Right.
Real quick, if I could interject, because something you just said actually shows that the child might not actually be autistic, because you said that this child, depending on the environment or the people that she's attempting to interact with, she may be capable of doing that, or actually is fairly consistent in being able to do that at home.
Yeah, she's high functioning. They said she's high functioning.
I would say that's probably more so dedicated, like you said, for lack of a better term, to her bloodline. Because
I think it is too. Like when she be mean, that's like some of that is hereditary. Not all of that is her autism. You see what I'm saying? Because she's very specific.
If she shows that she can do it, then it's either mild autism and something that can be treated with therapy and just different exercises to increase the ability to actually interact.
She's gotten so much better with all those kinds of therapies, physical therapy, speech therapy. She's in every kind of therapy that you can. If we find a new therapy, she'll be in that too. It's just the thing that bothers me is when she's triggered. When she's having that sensory issue, I don't like when she reverts back to the grunting and the pulling of the hair and all of that. It really stresses me out. It stresses all of us out because it feels like
a lot. That sounds like trichotillomania, pulling her hair.
Right. I mean, she just goes. I told my niece that the thing is it's coming from a personal standpoint. Darrell is so it's like we've let her down, and I know it's nothing, that we've done because we, any kind of therapy or any kind of treatment or just even unconventional methods, anything we can do, to have her function as well as she can. With society, with other people, we got to live in this world. Even she got to live in this world, right? We've done it, but it's so bad, Darrell, and recognize when she has those, when she's going through it.
Right.
Yeah, the episode is so bad. It's so heartbreaking. It's like what did we do to mess up this time? Did we miss something? Do we need to contact somebody else? It's real stressful when you care about these babies. I heard one of you guys saying how hard it was. I think Darrell said he did it for a couple of years.
Yeah, it was hard. That was some hard work.
Yeah, and if you care about
especially
these
with
babies,
nonverbal autistic children, that was hard. That was some difficult work. Because you may have to see them for like 3 hours and stuff like that. It was a long period of time you had to do therapy with them. So that was some tough work.
Well, Layla didn't say her first word until she was 6 years old.
Right. In terms of trichotillomania,
go ahead, Miller.
That's a very deep act of self-harm.
Yes, it is.
Right.
and what I can
and Mela, and also she'll bite her arms too.
Right. And so the self-harm aspect of not being able to respond to a different like you it's like, oh, I didn't give permission for this light to come on in my face in the car. And so that strikes up a anxiety neuropathic message that's off-putting to what would be considered normal. And what I will say, and I hope you don't mind me saying so, is that what occurs a lot of times is a mineral deficiency, like I'm serious. Like there are things that can be reversed with B complex nutrients, and there are things that can be replaced. Like you can't replace B complex nutrients with certain.
Mello,
they give their children, Flintstone vitamins and what have you. What's not recognized is that industry isn't regulated. What it is, it's allowed to pretend like it's regulated. And so people are giving their children these vitamins, and they're not actually supplying what they need to make their brain make the proper connections of normalcy. And and so I'll tell you this vulnerably, right? Having known somebody that had trichotillomania, once they started embarking upon a proper food regimen, a proper meal regimen, they actually started coming into what's called their right mind. And they realized it was just a habit, and they started seeking things that would soothe them whenever they encounter anxiety, because anxiety is unavoidable. Like that anxiety, let's get this straight, is unavoidable. I mean, for God's sakes, it's unavoidable. However, when you know how to self-soothe, like for instance, that girl, she literally got herself a brush, and she converted the habit of pulling her hair out to brushing her hair, and then she started taking certain type of nutrients that started, because she thought she did irreversible damage. But as it turns out, all she had to do was reconstruct her metabolism and biology with proper nutrients, and her hair grew back, and she's happier than ever. So that's what I would.
It's kind of like an alternative treatment. Was that you talking about alternative treatments? And was that you up there talking about?
That was Honeybee that asked me about using alternative treatments, and I kind of talked to her about some of the things that I've encountered with clients, referring, asking about my opinion of the use of alternative means of treating. Now, for me, I don't engage in alternative treatments, particularly if it's something outside the realm of my training. I don't
blame you. And I don't blame you.
I want to answer the question that Miss Olivia was asking earlier, because I heard her ask.
Before you answer this, Topaz, let me ask you, Topaz, Bella, all of y'all. What do y'all think about, because she's, at night, when she takes her night's meds, right? It's like a horse tranquilizer, right? And I don't feel comfortable with giving her that amount of medicine.
I think she's referring to the strength. It's not an actual
strength.
It's not like ketamine or nothing. It's just super strong, because okay, so here's the thing that people don't know about autism. They have a strong will. Okay.
Yes, they do, honey. Yes, I got up here talking about her waking up in the middle of the night. Let me finish telling you. I want your opinion on this, all of y'all. So what I started doing was that on my own, like an alternative therapy, because I'm not comfortable with a lot of medications, right? I just am not see them as being helpful at all. I see them as being harmful. Like, I don't like her in a catatonic state, right?
Right.
And so at night, what I do is her medication in half and give her some melatonin, right? And so I've noticed since we started giving her the melatonin, she won't wake up as frequent. She still might wake up to use the bathroom because she's potty trained. And she might wake up to use the bathroom, but instead of her playing with the water and the dog barking, letting us know that she's up playing with the water, she'll actually go back and lay down.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and let Topaz answer. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Topaz. I'm sorry. I just want to let y'all know alternative. This what I was doing.
So here's the thing, Miss Olivia. There's nothing. Okay, I'm not gonna say nothing wrong, right? You should never do things against medical advice. But I have noticed that there is a tendency for psychiatrists to overprescribe medication to kids of autism, especially if they are
That part.
aggressive.
Yes,
If,
you're
if they're
absolutely right,
aggressive.
Topaz. Yes, you're
Now,
absolutely right.
Now, here's the thing. It's about now. So, as a parent of a child that has, not me, I'm saying 4 parents that I've worked with that had kids that were autistic. And also I want to say we use person first language these days. So we say a person coping with the struggles of autism, not an autistic person. So anyway, a person has been diagnosed with autism. If they are a minor child or they're living in a place that's not a residential facility with somebody being paid to stay up all night like that, I do understand the need for some parents to give their kids heavy tranquilizers at night so that they can get a good night's rest. Now,
I get it.
yeah, now, but Miss Olivia, you didn't do anything wrong, because if you are willing and understanding and willing to get up at night when she's up, if she don't go back to her bed, then that is, like you're taking on that responsibility. So that's okay. You just tell your psychiatrist that, and you guys still have rights. They can't force you to do something. It's supposed to be a collaborative effort. And a lot of kids with autism also get prescribed medications like what is it, like clonidine, and what that is, it's an antipsychotic. And so that is the reason for this, is because that there's still some question about the actual cause and source of an autism symptoms, right? So they have different, like Mela was talking about, holistic treatments and whatnot, right? So there is a gluten-free, casein-free diet that people have been giving their kids that had a diagnosis of autism, because there was, for a while, there was a belief that autism was an allergy to the proteins in wheat and dairy. We don't know that for sure. It's worked for some people.
Grains and the casein.
Right. It has worked for some people because it is a medical thing, because there are certain medical conditions that are comorbid with autism as well. So for some people, if they also have those allergies, it has been enough to reverse some of their symptoms, but it's not an accepted widespread treatment like that. Okay. There was also something called chelation, where you go into this tube and it extracts metals out of your body, because that for a while there was a belief that autism was a reaction to having too much metal in your body. We eat metal from different
microtoxins, right? Microtoxins and metals.
Right. So none of these are accepted treatments. So I say all of that to say, Miss Olivia, is that you are going to be doing trial and error, because the field has not yet determined the precise cause to be statistically significant. Okay. Some things have worked for some people. And I wanted to also answer the other question I've heard you ask on several panels over the past few days. Why does your niece revert back to the grunting?
Yes.
So
that's my thing. I can't figure it out.
So it's nothing. Now, here's the thing. Life has disappointment in it. You can't take it personal, like the family failed her or did something she didn't like, because the goal of people of treating autism is getting them to understand how to cope and self-soothe the same way we do with disappointment. So if the light comes on, you can't make her live in a bubble if you ever want her to have independence. So she's going to have a lot of tantrums at first, but understand and keep the strength that her getting through that is going to be helpful to her as she gets older. So the reversion of the grunting is because that is her instinct. She's closer to instincts than we are, because we all have been, our behavior has been shaped. It's been reinforced. We get high fives, we get looks of approval, we get more time being spent with people, and we care about that, so that shaped our development. Your niece was absent of that, so she doesn't really care about all of that kind of stuff. So she will go back to the grunting, because that's the last part where her development stopped being
baseline. It's the baseline. And also, what I want to contribute humbly Lay off the grains. Lay off the grains.
Well, Mela, you
And
can't
once
tell people to just do that. That is not for everybody, okay?
Well,
it's not
like
gonna
you said,
hurt.
it is trial and error with the foods, and she's real. See, the thing is,
It's
Topaz
not
and
gonna
Mela,
hurt.
no, it ain't gonna hurt. But she's very specific about
Right.
what she puts in her mouth because of the
Right.
texture, right?
Absolutely.
So you can say lay off the grain, but if it's something that she used to like, she likes them gross old freaking what do you call those things? Those she likes a specific what do you call a chicken? The chicken nuggets, right? The
Yeah.
only ones she'll eat is the ones that shaped like the dinosaurs and stuff, right? So you can
Right.
be on the road, and we know one thing Lady gonna like, and she ain't gonna fuss about it, is a chicken tender, right? But you can't stop and get her like a McDonald's chicken tender. You know, if you haven't prepared that dinosaur chicken tender and ahead of time and have it with you, she's not going to eat anything until she gets that in particular, right there. You know, she
Yeah,
like
it's complicated. It's
Well, hold
more
on, Mela, because see
complicated.
that right there, Miss Olivia, is that willpower. So for your niece, I'm just assuming because I have not assessed her, but if that was the first chicken tender that she was introduced to and she liked it, there's no need for her to try other chicken tenders, and she will literally
you're
not
right.
eat them.
Yes. I try to tell my her mom that sometimes they be in a battle of wills, right?
Right.
And and her mom, but see, like I told recognize some of this stuff is hereditary, right? She is very
Temperament.
strong-willed. All of that is not her autism. Some of that is us. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah,
So
I
let
would.
me say this, Miss Olivia, because you are absolutely right. Because environment shapes. See, before she was diagnosed and she was just coexisting, when she couldn't have a say so to crawl away or walk away. She was noticing certain things, the things that made sense to her, that caught her attention. So some of that is environment. And second of all, we are all born with a temperament. Just because you have a diagnosis of autism, that temperament doesn't go away. That is how your symptoms are expressed from you. There are some kids that are more aggressive with their autism symptoms when they are experiencing displeasure, and some that will just kind of like shut down, some that will leave and cry, some that will run off, and that part is temperament. So you will have, that's why it doesn't look the same for everybody, because you still were born with a temperament and you still have an environment that's shaped and reinforced. So reinforcement means I want you to keep doing this, so I'm going to do something that makes this behavior more likely. Extinguishing is the opposite. I'm going to do something that makes this behavior less likely. So you guys coming over to her and handing her something she liked, that was reinforcing whatever she was doing at the time. So ABA is a treatment and it's very intensive.
Do you think? Let me ask you this, Topaz. Do you think that because we do cater to her and we really can't help it, because I can't.
I know where you're going with this, Miss Olivia, and yes.
It's like when she's having an episode, I'm having an episode in my body. Do you see what I'm saying? It's happening to me too. I'm not autistic, but every time she grunts,
that's empathy.
My stomach is balling up in a knot, you know. And at first, when she was really, really little, she was nonverbal. She wasn't even potty training yet. It even make me want to cry right today, y'all. I'm so sorry. I just
don't cry, Miss Olivia.
Yeah, don't cry.
I mean, she's 9 now, and she get, you know, anything they tell us to do, honey, we'll do it. If I hear something in passing in one of the the autism, the support groups, I will try it. All of the stuff, I'm downloading everything, single thing in my brain that y'all were telling me today. You know, it might not seem like it, but I'm listening to everything, and I'm going to try it. I will do anything.
I want to ask Miss Topaz, why did
Miss
you
Olivia didn't finish hers yet, Mela, and then I'm gonna answer yours, okay?
Okay,
Yeah, but
Topaz, why did you shun me from saying something regarding nutrition? Why is
Mela,
that?
I didn't shun you from talking about nutrition.
I heard you too. I get it. I understand. I try that too. Like, I literally would try anything, as long as I don't think it's gonna hurt her in any way, especially the holistic stuff, especially the food stuff. Now we gotta, like I was trying to tell y'all, we got a problem with the food issue.
Yeah, you're going to.
It's a problem with food. Some stuff she just absolutely is not gonna put in her mouth. And
a lot of kids with autism get multivitamins because of their restrictive diet.
They prescribed her a liquid vitamin.
Yeah.
You know,
I
and
can't
so we
remember the
could just
name of it, but yeah, it's one specifically for this type of vitamin deficiency.
and we put it in her food.
Yeah.
Can you believe she likes cereal?
Yeah.
She loves
Depending on what
cereal.
kind.
That's her thing.
Yeah.
Cereal.
There are some kids that will eat. I had one kid that would literally only eat hot dogs, but with no bun, and they had to be cut up into thirds. If you cut them into fourths, he was gonna take that plate and chunk it. I'm telling you right now, like so stuff like that. It's also very visual as well. And so I'm not shunning you, Miller, from talking about nutrition, because I also have a certification in integrative medicine. So I learned how to treat mental health diagnoses with diet. And so certain fruits and vegetables and vitamins that we get have an impact on our mood. And it's a whole thing. You know, we could talk about this later if y'all want to. But the point is, Miss Olivia, y'all are like, okay. And so in terms of reinforcing behavior, right? If she's throwing a tantrum, the best thing you can do is extinguish that, because once she learns that nobody's going to run and cater to her because she's flipping out, as long like what you do is you put something soft under her head so that if she tries, you stop her from self-harming. So if she's punching herself, you come over, you stop that, but you don't give any more additional attention.
When
And
she
there's
at
something
my house, when she at my house, Topaz, I want to ask you this too.
Okay.
When she at my house, it's the dog. That's what I was trying to tell D the real. It's the dang on, that's the Rottweiler. The dog don't like me, and I don't like the dog, right? The lot, but
what you do that dog, Miss Olivia?
That we don't like it. We petty. We both petty. We both in a
Now,
fight.
you know, canine and equine therapy has been shown to be effective with people with autism as well as other.
I told you the dog did the therapy. It's what I was telling D to tell. He sat there with that girl, you know, long enough, I think, he figured out she was gonna be calm, and then one day, he put his head on her lap, and she didn't trip out. She didn't try to hurt him. She didn't try to push him away. And he did that for a while, and now she, you know, rubs the dog. And so when she over here, if we think she gonna have the episode, you know, we'll be like, Lele, go to your room. You know, Lele, go lay down. You know, sometimes she'll do it, sometimes she won't. But if the dog come and stand beside her and nudge her, then she'll go on. And sometimes it calms her down. But when she get to going, honey, Topaz, even the dog start whining. When she in full blown episode, even the
meltdown. Because so think about it from her point of view. She wants to say something, but can't necessarily communicate to you the depths of what it is that's going on. Also, the emotional response to something that's displeasurable could be overwhelming. And so that's why we normally just refer to it as a meltdown. Now, you know, the reason I was bringing up equine therapy, which is horses, or canine therapy, is because you can train that dog to be her service dog.
He trained himself.
Right, but you can get it certified so that he can go places with her, like to restaurants, get on airplanes with her, whereas other animals can't go.
And the grocery store. Yep.
That dog ain't going nowhere with me but to ask. I don't like that damn dog.
Yeah, okay, but then for you, Miss Olivia. Now, all right. Now you pop a Valium and chill and let that baby have her service dog. You stop acting like this.
Yeah, I would do anything for that. If she like that damn surly dog, honey, she can have the dog. Okay. I'm not gonna lie to you. But
well, you know what? And you can send it home with your sister and her husband and everything. You can send it like if the dog gets certified to be her service dog, you can send it home with her, and then that way, like, you know, it's so many more benefits. It's things that are available to her because of her diagnosis.
Yeah, absolutely. Like,
and those service dogs are lifesavers. They prevent people from harming themselves. It's a good thing.
From flooding my house.
Even if it's not that dog that you don't like, you know, it could be a different dog.
I love the dog.
I don't know.
We just feel petty towards each other. I love it.
Oh, okay. I thought you hated the dog. I was like, damn, she hates the dog.
No, that ain't fair, because Miss Olivia, you know that dog is gonna give up because dogs are more intuitive than we are. You know that dog gonna give up way before you.
Yeah, that dog real petty towards me. I have no idea. We are in a ongoing battle for my husband.
Oh Lord.
And I think sometimes the hubby like the dog more than like me. And
get out of here. Now, you know that. Now, see, Miss Olivia, now, when that's in every stream today, don't be acting shocked, okay?
Now you spilling,
don't even
Miss
try to
Olivia, you spilling your personals. You spilling your personals, Miss
Right. Now, when
Olivia.
that's in
Don't
every
do that.
stream.
when we talk about how hard marriage is, look, y'all, when we talk about how hard marriage is on my channel, because I don't live a Disney fairy tale type marriage. We've been married too long for that. You know, we all me, him, and the dog, we all petty in this house, right? So I always tell people about the fight between me and the dang on dog and the man.
See that?
Right. Right.
See, that's why I don't have no pets. I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't feel like it.
We spilling the personal.
Girl, I always tell people about that damn dog. Okay, but nobody better not hurt that dog. I tell you that.
True.
It's gonna be a problem for real.
I know.
But
Right.
I just was really fascinated by it. And I want to know if you could give further insight on the dog. And you did. You said you can get the dog certified as a service dog, so you could go everywhere with it.
Yeah.
You know, and
all the places that regular animals can't go, you now have a paper signed by a judge that says yes, this one can. And it's illegal for people to stop you.
Oh wow! I wonder what they would think about that big ass rock rally at Walmart.
Well, you know, the bigger dogs
You
are
can
more
take
loving.
that dog to Disney. If that dog is certified, you can take him or her to Disney World. Okay, that's how strong that paperwork is. That dog can go anywhere with her and keep her cool.
Because horses and dogs are more intuitive animals, and so they have been known to be able to tell, like you said, he will go over. He knew when she if he's around her enough, he will learn the warning signs that we can't pick up on, like very early. Yeah, and he'll start going over there, and then he'll intervene, like he nudges her now. Now this is without training. So imagine if you had a trainer to actually come in and certify him. You know, then he'll know more things.
We never thought of that. I never thought of that. I'm absolutely.
Well, I also do disability paperwork, so I've been all over this field, and I worked in the field of autism for like 10 years. So you know,
It's a
that's why I
beautiful
had to come
thing.
up here.
Oh, Darrell, thank you so much for doing this stream. Like I said, for me, it's on a personal level. And that's why I was so upset the other night about, talk, because I feel like when people self-diagnose and say this, that, and the other, you're doing like a disservice to the community. And that community is vital to a whole lot of families dealing with kids with autism. That community is vital because it is hard to raise an autistic child on your own. Like it really, really, for real takes a village. A whole.
I heard how frustrated you were. You was like about to blow a gas. You like, I can't believe they're arguing with me about this.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, what you mean self-diagnosed? Girl, are you okay?
Well, let me say this too. It is very possible that with the right treatment and consistency, that people who have been previously diagnosed with autism can be indistinguishable.
Right. I've seen that. I've seen that a few times.
I wish I could show y'all the picture of my baby. She's so pretty.
I saw it. I was watching your stream earlier, Miss Olivia.
That's my girl. That's my girl, child. That's my girl. They better leave my girl alone.
Can I add something real quick? Because Topaz is actually giving you a lot of valuable strategies that actually are consistent with everything that you're saying to her right now as far as the behaviors. But I want you to be very mindful that anything in psychology is on a case-by-case basis. So
absolutely. Yes.
While we can give you our exhortation based on our previous experiences with other clients, I need you as the primary. It sounds like you're at least one of the primary caregivers. I need you to focus more intently on the actual treatment plan. I think you'll get results because you have all of the resources available to you. So this is what I would suggest to you. The first thing you want to do is each week you want to examine the treatment plan goals and the strategies that have been put in place by the previous clinicians, which are intended to actually replace a lot of the behaviors that you're talking about right now. The main thing you want to do to hold them accountable in the interagency meetings and at any psych eval that you may attend or whatever the case may be, you want to make sure that the strategies that are in there. There should be 1 to 3 strategies for each behavior,
Yes,
each target
yes.
behavior. So you look at those strategies and you say, okay, well, we've had this on the treatment plan, and I've seen the people who work with this child, the client, for X amount of days or months or years. After every week, there should be essentially a reevaluation of all the data that's been collected over that period of time. And all those clinicians are going to get together and they're going to say, okay, this strategy was attempted in this particular incident at this time of day in this particular environment, and it worked or it did not work by their standard. Now, if that is to persist for a week, 1 week, then you should very seriously consider whether or not that strategy should be continued in the implementation of the treatment plan. But after 1 week is not enough time. You generally want to go up to about 3 weeks of trying it. And if it's causing like some type of adverse effect, obviously you want to do away with it immediately. But if it's something that's not working, you want them to change it. Because see, we're not privy to the initial referral and all the antecedent behaviors that led up to that referral, or the behavior plan that's in place right now, or the psych eval or anything. So all we can do is take things from, you know, verbatim what you're saying, which is obviously very informative. But
all
you
those
have
things
to,
that
we
you
have to
mentioned
know.
are in place. You know, I'm just, I wanting to pick you guys' brain because, like I said, I know you guys have experience. I coming into this had no experience with autistic children at all. You know, I have been retired from the field for a very long time. It was very rare. Even when I was, you know, in my social work field, that I had to deal with an autistic child. I don't even know if I had a case you know,
You
work
probably don't. As a social worker, you would deal with the families.
Right. Yeah, I can't even, you know, but this right here, you know, it hit us so hard in the family because literally, there is, and when it comes to family history, there are no, you know, these types of disabilities, in the family. So that's why, when I was talking on my channel, I was like, I got, you know, you listen to so much stuff, and I was like, well, maybe it was too much mercury in the MMR vaccine. You know, maybe this or maybe that, and you know,
I want to talk to you about that, Miss Olivia, when you finish.
Okay, and I used to
Well,
question my niece, did you do A, B, C, and
standpoint,
D?
you really want to focus on the actual treatment plan, because you can make all of these resources work for you.
Yeah,
you are literally the head of the treatment plan team, but a lot of parents don't really understand their role because it's in the best interest of the agency to do things the way they want to do them. But
I was going to ask
you
you, do
can
you think
tell
I need
them
to
what
advocate
you want
more?
to happen in the treatment plan.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Do you think I need to advocate harder?
No,
be more
I can't really say for sure what you should do, but you definitely have to evaluate the treatment plan on a weekly basis. And if anything is in there that is not working, and you can read the notes, you can read the hour to hour notes if you want to. You're privileged to all these notes. So get in tune with that, and before you sign anything, read it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because a lot of parents really don't.
Okay.
Will tell you everything, really.
Okay, so hold on. Here's the thing. Miss Olivia say her niece is mainstreamed. She's in a regular classroom and goes to another school, like a specialized school, for 2 days a week. So she
2 days a week, mainstream.
Right. So they may not have hour to hour notes. But you can request that. You can go and ask for a meeting with the principal and get a 504 plan so that they are required to do that.
Oh, wow.
During the time that she's in the alternative school, I'm sure that they have
they probably do
hour to hour notes.
They probably do, but I can tell you the public school is not going to.
Yeah,
but you can rely on the fact that there's no incident in the actual school, and you can kind of gauge how the day went.
Right.
But as far as the alternative school, you should have actual notes on an hour to hour, even 30-minute increments. So you should just get more in tune with the treatment plan.
The 504 affords her the protections and privileges under the ADA, which is Americans with Disability Act.
Yeah, they call it what do they call it here? It's not. They don't. There's a
Is it an IEP? Because that's an individualized.
It's the IEP. Thank you. It's the IEP.
Okay.
Yes,
but that's not a 504. A
No,
504
it is not.
is a direct access to privileges that are afforded under the ADA, which is
it's federal.
Exactly, and that will get you the certifications for the pet that you had mentioned and all that stuff without question. Because without that 504, you're gonna have a heartache, like going through that red tape. But with that 504, it's immediate access to everything that you need to accommodate your child.
Okay, we had never heard that before.
Right. So the 504 plan is federal. That is across all 50 states, and it's more stringent than an IEP. An IEP is on the school campus level, and it's just saying this is what our policies is, and we're going to do something different for your child.
Right.
So depending on which one she needs, she may not need a whole 504 plan, and she might, because if she's mainstreamed, it means that she has overcome a lot of her symptomology, so she's not gonna need the more stringent stuff.
Yeah, no, she can function in the classroom and everything.
Right.
She's kind of, like I said, the main issue with her is she doesn't play with all of the children, but she will play with a couple, but she's not as social as some of her teachers would like her to be. But
it sounds like she's high functioning.
Yeah.
What I would just based on what you've told me so far, what I would do is encourage you to actually develop what some people call a reinforcement inventory, and that's a reinforcement inventory is just really a collection of data and the kids' likes and dislikes and certain goals and things that they could be possibly incentivized by. And if you set boundaries with positive reinforcement, whereas there's like a pre-planned reward, as in the fact, we'll say, okay, positive behavior, however you would classify that with your child, positive behavior for the next 5 hours. Maybe we'll play a game or read a book or something together. And high fives and all that positive reinforcement is always good. But you want to be the one who can actually tell somebody, like a professional clinician or somebody in the field, what the child is actually responsive to, because all the things that you're telling us that the child can do shows me that therapy with your help, with you at the head in the household, can actually be very effective, because this child has exhibited the ability to actually socialize appropriately in groups and with other people.
That would be so proud of her. Now she played, like I said, she's just not as social as the teachers or even us. Her family would like her to be at school, but at home, she played with all the kids in the family, and she don't have a problem with it. And they watch over her, but they just the thing about that what do you call it? Positive reinforcement.
Yeah.
The only problem that we got is when she melt down, we melt down.
Let me ask you this.
You're in that situation or not?
When you say, because just to get a little bit of clarity on what you are saying is actually more so normal behavior at home. When she's interacting from your perception among the people at your house, is she, like, if they're playing the game, everybody's playing, is she playing by herself but in the room with the other kids who are also playing, or is she playing the actual game with the kids and they're all interacting normally?
She being messy. She being messy, and they catering to her.
But if she's being messy, she know what's going on. She know how to. Okay, well, yeah,
she being
I think she on the
and
right.
they catering to her. You know what I mean?
So if there's a
so let me ask you this,
Chutes and Ladders, she messes up the board game. Even
No, I mean like when they're run. Now I tell you what, she likes computers. She like those. She can concentrate on those video games for some reason. She likes to count. I will see her counting like on her. Like I don't know what the deal is with her in math. She's real good with math, and and so
Because it's
maybe
concrete.
that's
Hold
why
up.
she likes the video games. I'm
So
not
like
sure, but
like
she's
like
really good
I'm
at
sorry, I can't see your name. I'm on my phone, but she said if they're playing shoots and ladders, I just want to piggyback on that. If if they say they're playing shoots and ladders, is this child playing with a couple shoots and ladders pieces on the side, or is she playing shoots and ladders by the rules and playing with everybody else and actually playing shoots and ladders with everybody else?
Well, yeah, say we'll like play Monopoly, right? And she will, play with the little things inside of the box, but she won't actually play the Monopoly game.
Okay, I got
So
you.
she's still
Yeah,
real.
that's what
with-
that would support any diagnosis
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah. She can't
autism.
actually play the game, but she can sit with us. It's
Okay.
for the fact that she can sit there and concentrate. I mean, on sitting there, without having to go flood the bathroom or, she's come a
So
long way.
okay,
Y'all
so
would be
that's called so Miss Olivia, that's called parallel play. Okay.
Good.
And so
Exactly.
there's three different levels to play. There's solitary, parallel, and cooperative. And so she can do parallel but not cooperative, and that's actually progress, right? So what happens is there are ways to teach her to do. So think about it this way, right? It means that she didn't, like most typically developing kids will learn how to interact with others by watching people and seeing, and vicarious they see the response other people get, and so then they mimic that because they also want that response. Children with autism don't have that, so you have to actively, intensively train. It's called discrete trial training, where you set up the opportunity and have them practice it, and you reinforce a positive an adaptive response, and you extinguish a maladaptive response. So the point for all of this, Miss Olivia, I can leave my email here if you have any other questions, but there are different types of assessments that are done to help your niece. And there's also an assessment I want to talk to you about called a functional analysis. If you ever want to know why a certain behavior occurs, they set up the trials and put the child in certain situations across time, across people, across events and triggers. And there are four big triggers. There's the escape. They want to get away from something that they don't like. There's attention. They want you to come over and do something. And so if she's having a meltdown and everybody rushes over and coddles her, that's attention, and that is enough to sustain that, and she'll use that to communicate. So to get her to use her words, you have to only respond when she's using her words.
Yeah, that's the thing, because like I was telling Deidre, I don't know if she was up here, when she starts having one of her episodes, she'll revert back to the grunting.
Yeah, that's why I
and
came
she
up.
won't use her words, and she won't use her words. Yeah,
Right, because y'all
was a
move
perfect.
faster. Y'all move faster when she's yelling.
I just want to say that was a perfect response. That was all you needed to know, really, about that. That was perfect.
Well, thank you, Recognized Game. Now, I did want to, one last thing, Miss Olivia, because I did.
that you offered your email
Huh?
to Miss Olivia.
Mela, if you want my email, all you got to do is say so, sweetie. I would love to see what you talk about on a regular basis, because I can only imagine, okay? So
Well, I want to thank you guys so much, because like I said, on a
it's a lot,
personal,
Miss Olivia, and I'm not expecting you to
on a
remember
personal.
all of this, okay?
No, honey, I've
Now,
been taking it. Trust and believe.
okay, so now the other
And I
thing
can
I want
go
to
back
talk to
and
you
listen
about
to
was the
this.
MMR vaccine. So
Okay.
that was a common belief, just like the chelation, just like the gluten-free, casein-free diet.
Right.
That was a belief that the mercury in the MMR vaccines caused autism. There hasn't been a statistically significant link to that. That's just the belief. So it may be true for some people, but it may not be true for a lot of people who are diagnosed with autism. So you should still, follow your child's vaccination schedule unless you have an exemption or what have you.
Oh no, she's still,
Absolutely.
still got her
I'm not sure if I'm boring, but what I'm saying
little
is that
bit.
You are a little bit. But
A little
okay.
bit.
Okay, I appreciate that Topaz is linking up with Olivia. That's all I'm trying to say.
Okay. So guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. If I'm at the 5, I don't work class. I'm still at the office, but I'm getting ready to leave. It's after 5. So
Okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and start with recognized game and end with Topaz to give last words for today.
Okay, well, I really appreciate this type of content, D. Darrell, especially from you. You know, I've been actually calling for this for some years, so I'm subbed on both channels. So yeah, I appreciate everybody's contribution, and I think this really, from everything that was offered here, I really think that you could learn a lot from as somebody who's a primary caregiver for a kid who's receiving these BHRS services. But if I could leave you with anything, just make sure that you are up on the strategies and this treatment plan. And if something's not working, you see data that shows, because it'll say it plainly in those notes. If you see data that shows that your child is not responding well to any of the strategies, you should suggest that they change them. No longer than 3 weeks if they've been trying it for in this having an adverse effect. That's really the main thing, and I think you'll see a lot of progress as far as the people who are responsible on the treatment team for implementing the actual behavior plan.
No, thank you so much for recognizing.
Okay, thank you. All right, y'all.
All right, so I'm gonna go with the Oracle since you're the reason I created this stream. So
I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful, and I'm so thankful to Rain and Womb Woman for letting me know that you were doing the stream. And I want to thank all of y'all. It was like a support group up here for me today, cause I'm so used to hearing the same voices. You know, the same therapists, the same counselors, the same teachers. You know, my family members, and for you guys to come up and share your thoughts. And your ideas and your suggestions. And I hope you're going to keep this video up, D. Darrell, so I can go back over it and take notes. You know, because you guys had some things that I'm absolutely going to implement, or at least talk about to a therapist about, to the group, you know, about. And I just thank you guys so much. Like I said, I'm so thank you for doing this stream, because like I said, I was so disappointed the other night. You know, the thought of somebody saying, well, I can diagnose myself with autism, because it's so hard, you know, to deal with Lele. You know, it's really, really hard. And I don't think you should take, you know, that lightly. And so, yeah. And so for that reason, thank you all.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate you for coming in.
Thank you.
All right, Miss Mella.
All right. I guess what I have to say is original reason why you were inspired to conduct this broadcast. There are people online who are not accustomed to the back and forth and, you know, unpredictable essence known as Black YouTube, right? And then they start to, you know, rubber band in their emotions, and they conduct behaviors that they find regrettable. And I would beg them to conceive the possibility that this space is not suitable for their emotional health. And that's my chief message. I'm not sitting up here trying to be a nutritionist guru or nothing like that. I'm just saying, if you experience conflict where it actually bothers you, that's what I'm going to say. If you experience conflict that bothers you when you get offline, maybe this space is not for you. You have to know whether or not you're the type of person to walk away from a conflict. You have to be aware of that. If you're not aware of that, then therapy is in order. Professional therapy.
Right. I
And
agree.
thank you for allowing me on the panel.
Appreciate it. You have a great day. Now, Ms. Topez, I was very ecstatic that you came up. Good to hear your analysis. And I didn't know you had as far as your the extensive training you had and so forth in autistic population. I didn't know that. That was something I learned new.
Well, listen, so Deidre, I have learned to accept myself for the like flighty person that I am. So I've been all over this field, to be honest with you. And the reason is because if I find something else that interests me, I'm gonna do that. And recently I've been doing integrative medicine where I talk about food and nutritional supplements and how that impacts mental health. So
Okay.
I'm trying to decide whether or not I want to be, go and actually become a psychiatrist where I prescribe medicine. I don't want to go to med school, but like that. So that just, is where I am, right?
Right, right. Well, I know it's funny you said it because I know a psychologist. He actually does the same thing. He got into the integrative medicine thing as far as because he noticed issues with as far as the influence of nutrition and so forth, and
Right.
he actually doing pretty well with. He actually sells products in his practice. He has all different types of products and stuff that and his clients buy it, or other people that have seen it. They patronize his products that
See,
he does.
Deidre, don't get me started to making another plan on how to get to this money, okay? Because
Hey,
I'm gonna
hey,
sit
I'm
in
telling you, man, he had
I'm gonna sit
hey
in my house and be trying to come up with products and you see, don't
man,
do that, all right?
he had stuff. He was making money. His biggest the things that he did that made a lot of he was doing MDMR.
Oh, okay.
He had a lot of clients.
EMDR, you mean?
What is it again? EMDR?
EMDR,
Yeah,
eye movement,
yeah.
I forgot, but it has to
Desensitization.
do with
Yeah,
trauma.
yeah. It does with trauma. He did a lot with that.
I'm
And
doing that. That's my next thing. I'm gonna do that, play therapy, and renew my BCBA license.
okay, yeah. So he was doing that, and he was doing a well with a lot of clients that came in, adults and even some of the children and so forth. And he did a lot of psychoeducation
Yeah,
on nutrition and how it affected mental illness. And
yeah,
people were in there buying a lot of his products in conjunction with therapy. They felt like they was getting more of a holistic type of treatment per se.
yeah. That's why I did it. Yeah,
Yeah, man, and he did well selling the stuff in conjunction. It was like another revenue stream, and it was actually something
yep.
that they were able to get without having to go to another professional to get those type of services. So I
Well,
was
it's up to a point. So what happens is we have so now my intake assessment is a lot longer because I'm asking them physical health things. And so what
right,
happens is I suggest to them based on what their symptoms are, like if somebody come in with depression, for instance, I suggest to them that they might need to talk with their PCP regarding pain and inflammation of their joints and stuff like that, because that has been shown to chemically
right,
induce a state of depression.
right.
Also, like certain foods that they can eat. If you're suffering from depression, you might want to incorporate more cherries into your diet because there's an enzyme in cherries that elevates your mood, stuff like that.
Yeah, and it works. I mean,
Yeah,
changes. I mean, I know for instance when I was working in Louisiana before I moved to Houston, um, when I was dealing with a lot of kids with ADHD,
yeah,
that was the place I worked and had dealt with a lot with the nutrition stuff as far as things that they were eating. And we had a couple of clients that a few of them that had lead poisoning issues
yeah,
that led to the ADHD. So
yeah,
we do, and I think that's something that may be something I'm going to start tackling as far as the environmental effects
yeah,
towards mental illness, because there are environmental factors that we don't necessarily think about that
yeah,
affect mental illness, as far as
yeah.
pollution and other different things that go on that do affect things. So
Right.
that, but yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I'm curious to see how that works out because that to me kind of goes in line with just another aspect of mental health as far as what affects behavior and personality and your mental state as far as what because exercise good health as far as eating.
Yep.
That has an effect. You know,
Yep.
that definitely has an effect. So, any other last words? I definitely enjoyed your commentary today.
Well, thank you. You know, I know that I sometimes nerd out over psychology, and I'll get to talking fast, trying to spit out a whole lot of information because I know I only have a certain amount of time before
Right.
people get bored and tune me out. So
No, it's cool. It's cool. I appreciate it. I'm glad because I've had, like, of all the people on here, recognized gamers worked in the field. Olivia worked in the field.
now, and I didn't know those two had worked in the
Yeah,
field. So I'm
I'm actually working on. I would like to have panels where I have mental health professionals just talking about stuff, and and giving our uh, clinical and professional opinion of things in regards
right.
to what we see and how we perceive mental health and how it's looked upon in certain settings, whether it's private practice, hospital, just the nuances of what we see versus what they may read on social media or what they see on TV. It's things that we see, experience, and study that they don't. And I think that could provide a great education because there's a lot of display of mental illness,
Yep.
whether self-assessed or not, and there's a lot of people saying a lot of different things. I mean, if I had $1 for every person that talked about narcissism, I would be
Listen,
trillionaire
you be
right
out here
now.
fighting a good fight, and I done gave up because listen, I don't just argue, in my regular life. I decided that I'm gonna just stick to the people that come in my office willingly. So I admire you for putting up with this because I have cussed out enough. I'm done. I'm
Yeah,
not gonna invite this kind of irritation into my life. I'm not gonna do it.
I actually stopped about 2 months ago. I did, but what I figured is this: I will focus on it most. If I'm gonna do it, I'll just do it on my panel, on my platform.
Yeah.
And for those that gravitate and want to know, they'll come over here and talk about it. But as
And
far
I
as
remember seeing you on O'Shea. That's how I even knew. Cause like I thought when I first came on YouTube, my thing was like all these people doing this stuff and they saying all this wrong stuff about psychology. I know I'm gonna start a channel and I'm gonna actually tell the truth about Black mental health. And then I listened to an O'Shea stream and I see you up there and I'm like, oh, somebody already doing it. Well, I guess people didn't listen. And then I got into enough arguments with people that I was like, you know what? Okay, now I see why he wasn't here when I first got here. He was taking a break because
yeah,
he's sick of y'all. He's
yeah,
sick of niggas.
yeah, because it wear you down, like, and I was
Man,
on,
listen.
and then I had I was on another panel. They was talking about some other stuff, and this person asked, they was like, "Why are you not being utilized?" These people are asking me questions. This
Because
was
they
like
don't want
people,
to.
and I'm listening like,
They
"Why
like
am I not
being
utilized?"
right. They like being complacent. Now, listen, D. Darrell, so here's my thing. Like, I was talking with Classic Group because, for a while we used to do like a weekly thing. We did a series together. And
Right,
so there needs to be a Black mental health sector because I'm subscribed to a lot of these YouTube channels that are in the psychology field now.
right.
And so I feel like we can develop our own sector for that. And I got some ideas. So,
Right.
just
Oh, I'm
email me.
interested. Now, see, my thing is this. There's a guy that I like. I don't know if you heard of his name. He's called Controversial Counselor.
Well, I haven't heard of him, but I heard of the kosher clinician, and
Yeah,
there's another guy.
the coach clinician. I've heard of him that he kind of does kind of some stuff in the man. There's a few guys. The thing
Yeah, I
about
heard
it
of
is,
a few people on here that
yeah,
are doing
but
it.
some of the guys, there's actually content creators, believe it or not, or people in the. What I found is this: there's people in the chat that are mental health professionals, but they don't want nobody to know they mental health professional.
Yeah, you know what? I thought about it. I was like, did I make a mistake? Because what y'all not finna do is keep coming for my career. And then if
Yeah,
y'all know that I'm a therapist now, I have a duty to say something when y'all say something wrong.
yeah.
So a whole lot of times I act like I ain't see it.
Yeah, see, so what I've done now is I've confined myself to leaving it. I don't go jumping on panels arguing it like I used to do. That was the issue in the past. What I do is I confine it to my channels, so that
Yeah.
I know that I control the or whatever. Or if I, like, say for instance, when I go to like the controversial counselor, people I know are bona fide therapists, I know that they're going to allow a certain decorum as far as
Right.
interaction, so I can. But I'm just more careful about where I go and talk about mental health.
Right.
I think that's what I've done. But I would love to have a black. I know, like, most, like, if you type in black therapist Black counselors and stuff, you'll see people, but it's just basically a collection of therapists who just talk about mental health. A lot of them like to talk about their journey to becoming a therapist and stuff like that. So, which is cool. But as far as having an interactive mental health collage of therapists, that would be awesome. I'm in. So whatever you need for me to collaborate and things like that, I would definitely like to participate in that.
Well, I'll tell you the first thing I need. I need you to tell BMT to give me the stuff to log in to the BBN, because if I'm gonna be on the team, I need to be able to stream onto the website. I mean, onto the YouTube channel. No, I don't have the login stuff. And BMT been telling me for almost 3 years now. Now I'm exaggerating for comedic effect. But he been telling me for a long time that he's gonna give me the login, and he never got it. And I'm tired of BMT. Okay, I'm calling out BMT. All right.
Okay,
now.
Because I'm streaming this right now on the BBN network.
I know. And he told me to ask you, and I'm like, okay, but you also have the login stuff. And then it slipped my mind. And so now that I'm up here, it reminded me. And so because I want to put some stuff on there too. And then also I'll talk to you, Classic Ruby. I didn't know Miss Olivia and Recognized Game were in the field. Yes. Somebody, Raining Woman, just typed that she also, so like people who are in the sector that actually have experience and stuff. Like I think that we should get together.
There's another guy. He's in the manosphere name. I don't see him that much. His name is Counselor Murray.
I've heard that name before, but I haven't seen him around.
He did a thing on some mental health stuff with Black women on Bernard Raleigh, which he actually didn't do it. It wasn't a red pill. I was watching to see, but he actually did real information. He didn't kind of slant it.
Okay, yeah, because that's my concern, is that they're gonna be like catering to the audience, and I'm like, no.
What he did was he focused on statistics and stuff in regards to Black, but he didn't do it in a way that was slanting. So I do appreciate that he did do that. So I know for a fact him, and that's a couple of others I have to look at. But I'm gonna actually, because I got your email and stuff.
Yeah,
I'm a look at, because I don't usually log into the BBN, but I know I got the email address and the password, so I'll get it to you. Because me and BMT the only ones that really load content on that channel.
Yeah, Faith used to, but she doesn't anymore. So I basically I got some ideas, and so we'll talk behind the scenes. But
I'm all
okay.
in.
Okay, well, so all I want to say is this is my passion, and I do have a tendency to just like be compulsively jumping on the panel and just talking fast and because I got to get it all out. There's a belief that I can't just let it go. Okay, and so I have to say it. So just let me say it, and then I'll shut up and I'll go on mute. I'll even hop off the panel if need be, so that other people can talk afterwards. But I do have to say the things that I need to say. Okay, y'all. All right. But it's in love. It's all out of love.
The information they got today was free consultation that they got.
Well, yeah, I used to do this. I would do I was a regional director, so I did the initial assessments to determine the baseline, what the deficits are. I put together the treatment plan, and I started out as an actual one-on-one ABA therapist. So what I want to do is get back into that. I want to be writing the treatment plans. I want to put together the home programs, as well as I want to do CEUs and training of the technicians, because they have a title now. When I was in the field, they didn't used to have a title.
Right.
So
there's money in ABA therapy, because I know I made a nice trip.
And it's insurance reimbursed now. It wasn't at first. It used to be just self-pay or donations, and now the insurance is willing to reimburse it. So I want to put together a program.
I know I was getting Medicaid payments from this. I was working with a home health agency, and they had a contract and so forth, and they would give me these clients. Man, I was burnt out. I had like 6 clients, but that burnt me out. I was burnt out for about it was a lot. I mean,
because you got to hire some associate ABAs.
I know. I was doing the work myself.
Yeah, no, you can't do that. Listen, I'm gonna be detached. Okay, I'm gonna hire some underlings. Okay,
ABA associates. But I did that for a good year and a half, and then I stopped doing it. And then they actually wanted me to do something in another city where I was already located. But I kind of but there's a lot of funding in that. There's a lot of money in it. It definitely is. And my thing is that I just don't like the miseducation of mental health. If it's something that irks me is when I see people being miseducated on mental health. I will literally stop what I'm doing to see what, you know what I'm saying? Because I don't know. It's just something about because I feel like in our community, we look at mental health in such a negative way.
Well, we don't trust it. We don't trust it. We think that it comes from white people. But here's the thing: when you have a Black mental health therapist, such as myself, one of the things that I do when I go into these office settings is I combat. I defend against a lot of these stereotypes that have been harmful to our people. So I'm out here working in the field for us because we need our own people in the field. But I can't do that. And now I will say that I do have plans after I retire from active practice that I do want to be on the board. I want to have some legislative power. So,
Yeah, you know what? They sent me something. I never really looked at it, but I know TCA and the board itself asked you. They gave me an application to apply, but I didn't. I'm actually thinking about it.
You technically don't have to wait till you retire. I could do it now, but I want to get everything. I want to set up some stuff and have it working such that as when I put these legislations in place, I have a lot of plans.
They look for members. I know at least once or twice a year, they make it open for you to fill out an application if you want to be a member on the because they changed the name to the TV something Texas Board Executive Council, whatever.
Texas Behavioral Executive Council. I mean,
they changed the, but it
I see that.
Grouped everybody into one thing. But the Texas Board of Council is still, but it's examiners is, but they kind of grouped everything into one. But I like to say that I definitely appreciate your expertise.
Well, thank you.
Whenever I do, you're more than welcome to come whenever. I'm going to do more content like this. I think I just want to make sure I do it in a way that kind of links with what's going on in the sector, what goes on, and I just want to do it in a way that kind of it kind of can grasp the attention. Because if I just do a topic on mood disorders, that ain't. But if I talk about it in relation to the sector, it rings a little better. So
yeah.
So
no, I get that.
All righty. Well, you have a great day. I'm about to go ahead and get out of here, guys. I appreciate you all for coming in today on this particular topic. Please leave comments in the comment section. If you are new to the channel, please subscribe and share. This is D. Durrell with D. Durrell The Rebirth, also broadcasting from D. Durrell Life Solutions, the Sector TV, and the Black Balance Network. Y'all have a great evening. Peace.
And thanks for letting me come up, D. Durrell. Bye.
Take care, Queen. Bye-bye.